sometimes. We'll give him the pass for the day. Up in Maryland to watch the Super Bowl. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll get his reaction to everything. And today, filling in for him, the man that needs no introduction, Dimitri Ravenos, with me for the next 3 hours as we analyze what went down last night in New Orleans. Not the most entertaining game in the world, unless you're, an Eagles fan that is probably in possession of a light pole that you knocked down last night because you couldn't climb it. But not exactly the Super Bowl I was hoping that we'd come in here and talk about today.
I don't know my geography of Philadelphia well enough. What river did they take those light poles to, or did they march them all the way to the Atlantic Ocean?
That's a good question. Do you treat a light pole the same way as a field goal post? I don't know if you do.
I
for one, I would think they'd be heavier.
Okay, so certainly that, right? Because goalposts, for those that don't know, are hollow. That is why you get the nice doink sound whenever one gets hit. I feel like erected steel craves the river or craves the water. And so once it comes down, there is only one place it can go.
I guess so. And unlike, like when you tear down a goalpost, that's something that's a part of the game itself. It was on the field, a part of, and, you can saw that thing into pieces and everybody can get a piece of it. I don't know if you're doing the same thing with the light pole. I will say the city of Philadelphia, being as proactive as they could, grease those things up. And I don't think they thought they'd be replacing them this morning. But you know what? Here we are. And for the streets are probably still clogged, to be honest with you. I think they'll take that for another Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things I thought about after the game is sort of switching the focus from Philly to the Chiefs. Man, how heavy is history when it's all we're talking about? You and I talked about it on Wednesday, right? Like there had to be some people that came into this neutral that were hoping to see the first ever three-peat Super Bowl champion. But think about all of the times that ability to make history for your franchise, for your school, for your city, whatever, has come up short. I mean, the biggest one, the one I think everybody is going to think about, is the undefeated Patriots team that lost what was, a close Super Bowl, but not an entertaining Super Bowl by any stretch, to the New York Giants. What was that, after the 08 season, I believe, or 09?
It was the 07 season, so January of 09.
Was it the 06 season was the Colts and the Bears down in Miami. Yeah. Okay. So after the 07 season, you've got the 17-1 Patriots. I think you can look at this every time in college football. Kirby Smart has gone up against Alabama. He got the big one. He got over the hump, but there really has been history lined up against him both before and after that. I know that the Eagles players talked about how much all of the talk of a Chiefs three-peat and the chance to be the first three-peat champion entirely in the Super Bowl area weighed on them. I wonder how much it weighed on the Chiefs last night.
Probably a fair amount. And look, there's a reason these things are significant, because they've never happened before. You've never had a team even in position in the Super Bowl era to do something like this. And we talked about this on Friday going into the game, that, we basically said on and off for the past 2 weeks, like, yeah, the Eagles look like the best team on paper, but the Chiefs are probably going to find a way to win just because they've kind of earned that benefit of the doubt over the past couple of years in doing that. But when it got down to it last night and they were down 24-0 at halftime, it's like, oh man, the Eagles are truly the best team. And it looks like the Chiefs aren't going to have a chance to come back into this. And again, for a team that, again, they won their games this year, only lost one regular season game, truly. I don't count what happened last week against Denver there, but they always found a way to win. And I think you gave them the benefit of the doubt because of that. And even with history not being on their side, it's like, well, they're just going to do the Chiefs thing and find a way in the last couple of minutes to get the ball in their hands. And Mahomes goes on some kind of drive that we're talking about for the next 5 to 10 years. And credit to the Eagles, they put them in a position where that wasn't going to be possible.
Yeah, I mean, think about like some of the teams, though, that they survived against, because that's the only way to describe this. They survived against a bad Panthers team. They survived against a bad Falcons team. They survived.
Oh, they lost to the Falcons.
What's that?
They lost, that's right, the Chiefs. Sorry, think about the Eagles.
No. Yeah. The Chiefs, survived against a bad Falcons team. They escaped against a dreadful Raiders team. I mean, I think that we put too much focus on the result and not enough focus on the problems themselves, because, you can struggle like that and find a way to overcome a good team like the Broncos. You can't do that all game long against a team like the Eagles and come away victorious. And I think the headline of the night obviously is the dominance, and the defense played a big role in that. But the headline of the night for a lot of people, I think, is Jalen Hurts. I mean, rightfully, he ends up winning the Super Bowl MVP, but the story is absolutely unbelievable, because if you are a college football fan, certainly Hurts had that 2019 season at Oklahoma that was like the ultimate middle finger to everybody that thought he was cooked. He has taken this team to a Super Bowl before. But if you are a college football fan, it is hard to get the image of Tom Rinaldi talking to him after the 2018 national championship game, where he gets benched for Tua Tagovailoa. Alabama ends up winning, and he has to do this. I mean, let's listen to this, like, obviously awkward interview after the game on ESPN.
Your reaction when you found out Tua was going to start the second half, honestly?
He was going to step in and do his thing. You know, we have a lot of guys in the QB room that play really well, and he stepped in and did his thing. Did his thing for the team.
In every offensive huddle, you were right there next to him throughout the second half and overtime. What was your message to him?
Ball. Play your game. Ball. You know, he's destined for stuff like this. He's built for stuff like this. He has the it factor, and I'm so happy for him, happy for this team.
I mean, a team guy through and through, right? And as an Alabama fan, like, I believed that he was just happy to get that ring in 2018, but to go from that to last night, and Dave, let's get cut. Is it 16? Yeah, cut 16 ready. To go from that moment to last night, where he is throwing a touchdown pass that literally puts the nail in the coffin to the same dude he did not get to throw the touchdown pass to in 2017, is amazing.
Let's get it back. We're going to run some clock, or maybe throw the dagger. Hurts going deep. Fire it all. Devontae Smith. He has got it. Touchdown.
I mean, that was the moment. Like, that was when it became clear, like, this is Jalen Hurts' story. Everyone else is a side character.
It is poetic justice, as they say, that it ended up that way. And for me, that's when the game was really over. Look, and
agreed.
I've seen the 28-3 lead evaporate, myself. So even being up 24-0 at halftime wasn't safe enough for me. But and even heard Kevin Burkhardt say, well, surely they're going to run the ball here to try and shoot the clock. Like, no, they're going to go through the throat and try and end this thing, which they did. And that was a couple minutes to go in the third quarter. And, I know the Chiefs tacked on a score before the end of it, but the game was over at that point. And I imagine the majority of people probably tuned out before the clock hit zeros to end the game. I didn't even see the Chiefs last touchdown, to be honest with you.
Really? You tuned out that early? I mean, I stuck with it because I was just hoping that we were going to get a good commercial at some point in the game, but it was not to be for the most part. What did you think overall of the presentation? I mean, I was watching the game and looking at Twitter, looking at Blue Sky, looking at Instagram, and a lot of talk about the way Fox looked during the game last night.
The new score bug is awful. And I am a stickler for these kind of things. I have weird fixations when it comes to sports jerseys, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Score bugs and graphics are big for me. And
really?
I saw this get leaked the other day. Like, because every network tends to debut something new when they get the Super Bowl every 3 years. So it was about time for Fox to bring in something fresh. So you knew something was going to happen. But I saw this one leaked on like Wednesday or Thursday.
I mean, it looked like it was created in Microsoft Paint.
Exactly. I was like, there's no way that's what they're really going to use. That's a placeholder. They're trying to throw people off or whatever. It really looked like in high school, did you ever forget to do a project?
Oh,
you
sure.
Kind of throw something together the night before with, glue and duct tape and cardboard, and then you bring it in and get an F the next day. That's what that reminded me of. Like, oh, bleep, we got to do new graphics for the Super Bowl on Sunday. Quick, get on Microsoft Paint and see what you can figure out. Like, it lacked substance. There wasn't even I didn't necessarily love what Fox had beforehand, but at least it incorporated team logos to give you some kind of flavor. Like, this was just the most generic, PHI, KC, here's some stats on the side. No.
When they would show the play clock next to the quarterback before the snap went off, it looks like and you know, I don't know how many people can relate to this, but it looks like when I'm building graphics for my Panthers podcast, and I look at it and go, that looks a little dry. It needs like a shadow or something behind it. They just didn't do that, right?
It is the free version of Canva, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what they were operating with. They couldn't get anything fancy, couldn't get anything with borders on it. Like you're just it looked like something you'd see from like 1985, right? Like if I was watching the Chiefs and the Eagles play at Three River Stadium back in 85 or whatever it was. Yeah, that's kind of what I'd expect. But
verdict on the halftime show.
I enjoyed it.
I did too. I thought that I built up what it could be in my mind. So it was not everything I thought that it was going to be. I was all right. So first of all, you got to understand, Kendrick is my son's dude, right? So I know all these songs by heart. I was very impressed with the in real time on the fly censoring himself. That was that might have been the most impressive thing of the night.
I think that's what I was intently listening for, was if he was going to slip on something, which credit him, he did not. And look, as you would imagine,
even if he did, don't worry. The entire Superdome was there to sing it.
That's right.
Straight to Drake's face.
That look, I saw a lot of negative reaction, as I kind of expected from this. The people that don't enjoy that kind of music and don't understand Kendrick Lamar. I will say this. That is the one time I think a Super Bowl halftime show has been very niche to a specific subset of fans, because a lot of times these acts can kind of satisfy everyone to some degree, or at least play songs that everybody knows. And Kendrick had a few in there that I think the general population would be familiar with. But if you don't understand the lore, if you're not up to date on the Kendrick versus Drake feud, you're probably very confused with everything that happened over the course of 14 minutes last night.
I loved that they strung the "is he gonna play Not Like Us" as a theme throughout the performance. I thought it was very clever. It was the only way to address this. And I guess next year we overcorrected. We get like Darius Rucker and Shabuzi or some garbage like that. Like, I don't know how you top this in terms of capturing a moment. I still think that I can't remember the number, whichever Super Bowl it was where Prince was the halftime show in the rain in Miami, that cannot be topped. It is the greatest Super Bowl halftime show ever. But for reflecting what we were all talking about last year, this was monumental.
Yeah, he nailed it. And again, if you don't know anything about Kendrick Lamar, you were probably confused the entire time. But in terms of what I think we expected out of him, I think he knocked it out of the park. I do like the Samuel L. Jackson element of it was so funny to me because essentially he was acting as the negative Facebook comments that were happening in real time. Like, well, this is ghetto, or this is stupid. What's he talking about? Like, he was playing right into your face of how he knew you were going to react to it.
I wonder how many SEC fans knew what he was capable of. Because remember, that aforementioned Alabama-Georgia championship game, he did a halftime performance in that game that was just him on a stage.
That's right.
It was amazing. Yeah. So real quick, before we wrap up, I do want to say, because he took so much crap from everybody this season, I thought the Super Bowl, that is what Tom Brady, the broadcaster, was built for. Like, I thought he offered so much unique insight. And I'm sure he felt really good after a season full of hearing how bad he was at this.
Yeah, I agree. Look, he's come along. I still didn't love him replacing Greg Olsen for the primetime Fox slot, but having the experience of being a Super Bowl quarterback, what he could tell you about over the course of 4 hours last night was very insightful, and I very much enjoyed that. So hopefully season number 2 bodes well for him as well.
There was not a single Gamecock on either roster last night. Did that affect how interested you were in the game or how long you stuck with it? Tyler and I will get into that coming up next. I'm Demetri Ravanos in today for Terry Ford on 107.5 The Game.
All right. I don't think he was expecting you to throw it to break.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I think he was on the phone with somebody. I tried to get his.
One of those dirty 1-900 lines.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had written out. I've written out teases just to kind of give me a breakout.
Yeah.
You tell me how you want to do it. What makes it easier for both of you guys?
No, that's cool. I'll bring it in if you want to take it out, because I got promos to hit and stuff like that. But if you want to take it out, that's cool.
Okay, cool. All right. So I figure in this segment, we will get more into the chaos in Philadelphia here.
Okay. What's up?
That woman was screaming that guy you got on there needs to be fired. She's never going to listen.
Why? What'd I do?
Apparently the Darius Rucker comment.
Oh, what are you going to do? He should be better. Not my fault.
Hey, his best song is a cover.
What is that?
Wagon wheel.
Oh. I mean, listen, I love Hootie and the Blowfish. I still love Hootie and the Blowfish. Darius Rucker is garbage on his own.
So you don't have to deal with repercussions, people here locally, when you say those kind of things.
Yeah, well,
I'm gonna
that's
give
true.
I'm giving them your number.
Yeah,
That's I'm the chaos agent.
by the way, the people can't hear us on the live stream during the commercials, so just heads up.
Yeah, I do that. You're all very handsome and pretty.
That's right. Butter them up.
We could all be friends and not like the same music.
That's the thing, because we don't have to agree on everything.
Right.
That's what makes America great, right?
Well, for now. So
Yeah.
when did you turn it off last night?
I don't know, because I hadn't even gotten around to cutting Dawn's audio from the game yesterday. I was like, I need to start on this and wait for all the post-game stuff to happen. So I just started doing that. Probably, 2-3 minutes left. And then I popped back in to see what Hurts and Sirianni were going to say after the game was over, and see, we can talk about this later too. What kind of camera time Big Don was going to get. There's not a thing that man cannot step in front of.
I got to tell you, I always forget he exists until I see him on camera, and then my brain knows exactly who he is, exactly what his name is, exactly why he's famous.
Yeah, he's a attention hog.
Yeah. Big Dom. I do appreciate that there is enough awareness of him, or at least in the Sirianni interview, to, yes, I'm going to find my way onto camera, but I will not bully my way into the moment.
Yeah. He's still there, though. His presence is there.
Yeah. Well, he's got to show you the Italian flag on the back of his hat.
Yes, he does. And, intentionally does not wear sleeves when it's really cold outside.
Sure.
He's one of those guys. I guess so.
That's did you ever hear Michael Irvin one time was asked about guys that wore the midriff cut off jerseys and no sleeves in the cold, and what he said is he said, I can't answer for everybody else, but I know for me, when it was cold, I was cold. He was basically saying that he did not care what you thought about him coming out in long sleeves. He was not there to prove he was a man.
Hey, I get it. If it helps you play and you're one of the best ever, more power to you. What's up?
That TurboTax commercial with the little 20-something-year-old girl running down the street with her little thing on there.
Oh, yeah.
$3,207 refund. That means that her adjusted, not her gross, but her adjusted income would have to be $139,000 a year.
Do that math yourself?
No, I looked at it.
Okay.
I
was about to say, well, then I'm going to have Dave do my taxes.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Dimitri, hanging out with you on this Monday, recapping all things Super Bowl 59. We'll get back into that in just a moment. Reminder, tomorrow night, Carolina Calls with Dawn Staley at 6 o'clock here on the game in Columbia, at 100.3 the game out in Myrtle Beach, as we'll get to this a little bit later. She recaps what happened yesterday with her team falling to number 4 Texas 66-62. They get back on track on Thursday as they take on Florida over Colonial Life Arena with a tip-off at 7, pregame coverage at 6:30 on our sister station 98.5 WOMD. Last night, obviously, no Panthers in the Super Bowl, so I don't know how much of a rooting interest people locally here had, which it'd be a while before they ever get back to that. I think Nick Muse may have been on like the Eagles practice squad.
I was about to say he may have been on the practice squad. There were no Gamecocks on either active roster last night.
So not the hopeful representation for your school that you want in the Super Bowl there, though. We'll see what happens going forward. But I guess official, no Gamecocks on the championship Chiefs team last night, or Eagles team last night.
Yeah, I mean, or Chiefs team either. I would assume that most SEC fans probably recognized more names, if not were rooting for more names on the Eagles. I mean, it certainly seems like they are Georgia North. They've been Alabama North in the past. They tend to focus on this area of the country when they are drafted, especially defensive talent.
What wild concept, right? Some teams here in the Southeast can't figure that one out.
Well, it's interesting. I looked at a graphic from Fox on their social media that showed where all of the colleges, where all of the Philadelphia players were from. And there were plenty of SEC schools, I think 9 different SEC schools represented on that roster. There are the traditional powerhouses you would assume that produce players on every roster, your Ohio States, your Penn States, your Florida States, etc. And then like this is happening more and more. Like Sam Houston has a player on the Eagles. Middle Tennessee has a player on the Eagles. A school, and look, I like to think I know a lot about college football. I have never heard of a school called Houston Christian before, but they have a player on the Eagles.
So it used to be Houston Baptist. They actually changed their name a couple years ago.
That does not help me either. What level of football are they?
They're FCS. They'll play like Texas Tech in the first week of the season or something like that. But they were Houston Baptist. Now they're Houston Christian.
Okay. I honestly had never heard of them before. Do you realize Army had a player on the roster? Like it was not that long ago. It was really hard for Army, Navy, and Air Force players to get back into football shape to play after their mandatory service.
Yeah. Is it 2 years? Is that it? Is that the time?
That's the thing. It used to be 5. That's why it was so hard. And now I believe it is 2, and you are eligible to defer if you are going to the NFL or NBA if you are David Robinson.
Yeah. I guess I probably count on one hand how many of those guys are on NFL rosters right now.
Yeah, so I do wonder, and look, the phone line and the text line are exactly the same, 803-404-6100. Look, people move away from Philadelphia all the time. Why would you stay there if you didn't have to, right? So
the cheesesteaks.
Well, sure. I'm sure we have people in somewhere in South Carolina where they are hearing our voices that have a hometown rooting interest for the Philadelphia Eagles. But if you did not have an interest, was the lack of a Gamecock on either roster, did it sort of limit your ability to say either one of these teams are my team tonight? Because I certainly felt that way.
Sure. Yeah, no, it makes sense because again, I imagine, there's some Panthers fans here. I know there's a lot of Steelers fans here in the local area, but if your team's not in it, then you want to find an angle of, hey, I remember this guy played for my team or whatever it may be, to have somebody to root for. And even with as many, Georgia players on Philly's defense, I wasn't like actively rooting for them. I wanted to see them do well, obviously, and they ended up winning, but that wasn't even like enough of an angle for me to say, yeah, I'm all Philly for this one. But for a lot of people, it was.
I told my son last night, like, I'm not necessarily rooting for the Eagles. I'm rooting for Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts to have good games, and they did. They connected for a touchdown. That's really all I wanted. One thing that really struck me as we were talking about the destruction in Philadelphia after the championship last night. How do you think Columbia would react if the Gamecocks went to the college football playoff and won the whole thing? I think that the concentration of a lot of people in a small area is part of what creates the chaos you saw in Philly last night. But there is definitely some pent up, like ready to celebrate a football championship in this state.
Yeah, like Philly, I think streets are definitely flooded.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Yeah, we got light poles out there. I don't know. Is it easier to climb like a metal light pole or a wooden one? Because I'm looking at wooden ones out there.
I would think wooden ones are more likely to have notches where you can put your feet, right? And also, I would
Maybe
think
so.
wooden ones would absorb grease more than the metal ones would.
Yeah, that's a good point. I imagine the younger crowd, the college students, would be the ones with more death-defying moves
Right.
in celebration. And look, I don't think it's going to be, loitering and massive damage to the city or anything along those lines, but I could see a Philly-esque type of celebration here if the Gamecocks did go all the way and win the national championship.
I have been in Chapel Hill when North Carolina has won a basketball championship before, and it is a mass of humanity. It's uncomfortable to be in.
Yeah.
And they win that thing all the time. It's really hard to imagine what a once in a lifetime championship moment would be like for a place that wants it so badly. And like we saw that last time, and like kudos to Philadelphians for upping their game, right? Like we're not climbing light poles. We are lifting them out of the ground and taking them to wherever it is where you're going to throw them away. But it's something I thought about last night or this morning, I guess, watching all of the videos coming out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, and I don't think, whether it's your apartment or house, when you're leaving to go join the mass and celebration, I don't think you have a plan of what you're going to do. You just kind of find wherever the crowd.
You're going to start a fire somewhere at some point.
There'll be a fire somewhere. If you end up near a light pole, you're going to try and climb it, whatever it may be. I don't know if you can climb statues at the State House across the street or something along those lines. Just whatever you get close enough to. There's no plan. You just go for it.
I was about to say, you noticed no disrespect to that Rocky statue last night.
No. Well, did they make their way that way? I don't know where the library sits in reference to.
I was about to say, I've been to Philadelphia one time, and if I were to tell you that I know the geography, my wife would remind me that I got lost every time I tried to get back to our hotel when I was in Philadelphia.
I'm sure somebody at least paid their respects to Rocky at some point last night.
The greatest champion until Jalen Hurts came along. The game was so lopsided that maybe you lost interest last night, but in the city of Philadelphia, I would argue last night's win was bigger than the Super Bowl 52 win. I will explain that coming up next. He is Tyler Head. I am Demetri Ravanos. You are listening to 107.5 The Game and the Game Sports Network.
There we go. Got it that time.
Well, now there was no violence or destruction during either of the College World Series.
Yeah, but this is football we're talking about. Football's different.
No, people are not hoodlums.
I think I'm not saying they were. I just think football would bring out a larger mass of people if they won.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say it was destruction. No, I didn't say anything like that. Maybe climb some light poles.
No, we removed those light poles. You weren't here.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Light poles down Main Street instead of trees.
Okay.
They were the ugliest, horrible light poles down in the middle of Main Street.
When did this happen?
I think they inserted them in the 80s. They took them down.
Okay.
They were so ugly.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. Probably a scrapyard somewhere.
Okay. Now I know.
Well, I told you earlier. Erected steel craves the water, so I'm sure they are. What's the river and/or creek that runs through, like right before you get to downtown?
Yeah, Congaree.
Oh yeah, Congaree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes it a national park.
Saluda and Broad, or Congaree's farther down, but Saluda and Broad right there. Yeah.
Right here at 126.
Yeah. That's right.
Saluda,
Yeah. That's a pretty short walk from downtown. They could get there. True.
I tried to do as much Super Bowl, either local tie or pop culture as possible, but this struck me last night, so I wanted to talk about it a little bit.
Okay,
this will be our one and only national sports talk thing.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you don't get into the GOAT debate, I'm good.
Well, don't look at the top of the next hour then.
Uh-oh. Let me see. There it is. Okay.
Yep. It's a little bit of a different bend, but it is definitely that conversation.
It's not the Stephen A approach.
Right. Terrible. Horrible.
Which they'll spend the entire. I mean, they were talking about that stuff the other day before the game.
Yeah.
So it's only going to make it worse.
I will say it is interesting. Not that I want to have the GOAT debate, but it is interesting that, like, I don't remember any of Brady's Super Bowl losses being as lopsided as both of Mahomes's were. Right?
No.
Both of the Giants games were a touchdown, right?
Yes. Well, the first Giants game was 3 points. It was 17-14.
Oh, did they score a garbage time touchdown in that one? The Patriots, I mean.
Oh, was it 21-14? Hold on.
That was the second one, I know.
Okay. Super Bowl. I'm curious now.
What was that, 44?
I honestly can't keep up with the numbers. I just go off the year, personally.
42.
Where is the game results?
Yeah, you're right. 17-14.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. And then 2012 was 21-17. It's close.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then it was 8 points. Yeah, 8 points against Philly the first time.
Mixed with pop culture, sprinkled with celebrity interviews. She hated the title Everybody Loves Raymond. That's true. Is it appropriate for you to tell people to hurry it up? It's appropriate on Curb Your Enthusiasm. I want to know who you defeated to get that title.
That was the Madonna year. I was trying to remember who the halftime show was of that second Giants Patriots Super Bowl.
I don't even remember that performance, to be honest with you.
All I remember is the guest spot from the rapper MIA. I could not tell you anything else about it.
Oh, that's right, where she did the weird thing, like blah, 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 with her tongue or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler and Dimitri along with you here. In case you just woke up, talking all things Super Bowl. Last night, Super Bowl 59, New Orleans, the Eagles taking down the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. First of all, that is not a scoregami. I was very disappointed to check that after the game last night. That happened one time before when the Patriots beat the Rams back in November of 2004.
So scoregami for a Super Bowl, but not for NFL history.
Yes, for a Super Bowl, but scoregami encapsulates all games.
Right.
So like when the Broncos lost to the Seahawks 43-8, that was scoregami.
Oh, okay.
For the Super Bowl and the NFL in general. And I was hopeful last night was another one, but no, that is not the case.
Speaking of history, did you think that, and were you disappointed that we did not end up seeing the first shutout in Super Bowl history in that game?
I thought we were trending that way.
I thought so too.
Here's the thing: with today's game, especially as you get late into it, you either commit to stop the run or commit to stopping the pass. You knew they were going to find a way to get points at some point.
Yeah.
If nothing else, the Chiefs would have kicked a field goal in the last 2 minutes, just say, hey, at least we didn't get shut out. So I don't think they were going to shut them out. And I appreciate good defense. I thoroughly enjoyed just watching the physical dominance that Philadelphia's defensive front had, because it's something in today's game that's so tilted towards offense. You don't see as much anymore. And like Jalen Hurts said after the game, hey, guess what? Defense still wins championships.
It's interesting, right? I thought that there was a lot of reason for Philadelphia to feel really good about this victory. Obviously, you win the Super Bowl, you're always going to feel good, right? But getting the revenge over Kansas City, they forced Kansas City to play the way that the Eagles forced Kansas City to play the way they wanted to play coming into that game. And when that's the case, like, Kansas City has a really good defense, but they were not going to be able to stick in that game. I also think that if you have not spent time with an Eagles fan in your life, I think there is something about beating Andy Reid to become a champion that really matters to Eagles fans, because The last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl, it was 2 years ago. It was out in Arizona. There was a lot of a feeling about how do we, or I guess a feeling of how do we feel about Andy Reid? Do we say thank you for the levels he got the team to, or do we remember that Andy Reid was good but not good enough, right? And the fan base was pretty divided over that. Not just beating Andy Reid, but stomping Andy Reid, I think really matters to the older generation of Eagles fans.
Well, and especially considering the fact that he got the best of you, 2 years ago, the first time these two
Right.
teams matched up. I think that adds a little bit more fuel to the fire. And I'd say that certainly is part of it because, like you said, when he was with Philly, it was the good but not good enough. Got there with Dominic McNabb, played in, plenty of playoff games, but couldn't ever get over that hump of winning the grand prize. And when you see that guy that, they weren't, sad that when he was moved on from in 2012 or whenever that was,
Yeah.
to go to Philadelphia, to go to Kansas City, seeing him now go have success with, again, a generational type of talent of Patrick Mahomes probably aggravates a lot of people. And I get it. Like, Andy Reid's a very lovable guy. It's hard to hate, but seeing your former coach go somewhere else and have more success when he couldn't get you guys there probably bothers a lot of those people. And again, when they win with Doug Peterson a couple years ago, it's kind of like, hey, guess what? It all kind of balanced out. We got Peterson, got a Super Bowl win and all that kind of stuff. But then for Kansas City to go on the run they've gone these past couple years, like, man, if only that could have happened here. But again, you got the last laugh last night, at least.
I think, obviously, you're going to have to do some mental gymnastics here because this was never going to happen. But imagine that Nick Saban retires and they announce Will Muschamp is going to be the new coach at Alabama. And next year, Muschamp leads the Crimson Tide to a national championship. I think there are a lot of Carolina fans and a lot of Florida fans, too, that would be very loud about the fact that, well, that's not Muschamp. That's about the talent he has. And I think that's how Philadelphia fans largely feel about Andy Reid. I think they are thankful for what he did for them when they are there. But the difference between those Eagles and these Chiefs is not anything having to do with him. It's Patrick Mahomes. The end.
Yeah.
I also think that there is some satisfaction in the dominance because even when Philly has lost the Super Bowl in recent years, it's come down to the wire. It has come down to the very last drive. And last night, Philly looked every bit like the best team on the football field, the best team in the NFL. And I think that Philadelphia sports fans have not gotten to experience that feeling very much in their life.
Yeah, that's a good point. And look, in the NFL in general, you rarely get to experience that kind of dominance in a Super Bowl. Again, last time we really saw this.
I was thinking about this. Is this the most lopsided Super Bowl since Seattle over Denver?
Yeah. Denver beat Carolina by 14.
But that largely happened in the fourth quarter. That was a pretty sleepy Super Bowl most of the time.
I just kind of go back and skim over this here. Yeah, pretty much everything else really never got outside of like that first KC San Francisco Super Bowl was 11 points.
Yeah.
Other than that, mainly one score games. And even before, in the years before that, one score. I mean, the Colts beating the Bears by 12 was really, and then Tampa Bay beating Oakland by 20 plus. Really, those are kind of the only, since the turn of the century, there's been about 3 or 4 one-sided Super Bowls.
And see, it's such an outlier that I think there is another thing here. And Dave, if we can get cut 18 ready, that is kind of at play. Like, even during this season, we were asking questions about Nick Sirianni, about, even if this team makes the playoffs but falls short, why would you bring him back? And last night after the game, he talked about a little bit of the joy and, frankly, the relief he felt getting it done.
God's blessed us very much. He gave us all the talents to be able to get here. So first and foremost, thanks to him. And this is the ultimate team game. You can't be great without the greatness of others. And great performance by everybody, offense, defense, special teams, Howie getting us the guys, our coaching staff, these great players. We didn't really ever care what anyone thought about how we won or their opinions. All we want to do is win. That's why we listened to my prerogative a little bit when we were after some wins. But thank God. Thank you, Jesus.
I have to imagine some of the thank God, thank you, Jesus is about feeling the monkey is off of his back personally.
Sure. No, absolutely. Again, they made it 2 years ago. The following season, they still won 11 games, but what was it, 5 out of the last 6 or something like that to end the 2023 season where they just kind of fell apart.
Yep.
Offense couldn't do anything right. Had to, clean house with his coordinators and all that kind of stuff. And this year they started off 2-2. They lost to inferior teams in the Falcons and Buccaneers and were 500 a month into the season. And there was the drama between him and Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
There was stuff between him and A.J. Brown that persisted throughout the entire season. They yelled at each other last night on that one play where it seemed like Brown wasn't on the same page with Jalen Hurts. And, he's jawing at fans. And there's just so much turmoil and negative conversation around him as a head coach because he's brash. He's not afraid to say how he feels and, again, poke the bear a little bit, which kind of fits in with Philadelphia, personality, I feel like, which makes him the perfect kind of fit for that head coach. But, it's funny to look at somebody that's now 48-20 in 4 seasons with 2 trips to the Super Bowl and say, man, he was so close to losing that job. But, again, that's just kind of how this tenure's been so far.
To that point, Tyler, there was a part of me last night that wondered if Jalen Hurts was a little bit furious that this means he's stuck with this guy now.
I never really thought about that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You take the Super Bowl championship every single time.
Sure.
But you have to know now this intertwines you guys together for as long as you're both in Philadelphia.
Well, the thing to me is like, okay, is he now going to be more bold and more outspoken now that he's finally got the trophy to back it up? Because the thing about him being the way that he was is like, well, talk to me when you finally win a Lombardi. Well, now he's done that.
Yep.
So if he can turn up to another degree if possible, he's probably going to do that.
I mean, it's very similar to another Eagles coach in history, Dick Vermeil, who took the team to Super Bowl 15. Another blowout, if I remember correct. I think they just got dominated by John Madden and that Raiders team. But that was a dude we called weird for all of the being overcome by emotion and the tears and the big feelings until years later he won a Super Bowl with the Rams and that it was endearing. I think that's what you're looking at with Nick Sirianni. So forget what happened on the field last night. What did you think of the commercials? I was actually expected to be a lot worse than it was, but there wasn't a lot to like. Tell me if you think I am wrong. The phone number, if you want to weigh in, 803-404-6100. What was your favorite Super Bowl commercial, if you even had one last night? We'll get into that next. He is Tyler Head. I am Dimitri Ravanos. This is 107.5 The Game and The Game Network.
See what the text line has. What? We were talking about Super Bowls that have been lopsided, not necessarily the most. You have a submission?
48. Seattle 43, Denver 8.
Yeah, well, we were saying it was the most lopsided since then.
Oh, since then?
Yeah, since then. Because all the other ones since then have been pretty close.
I think before that, it was San Francisco over Denver in what was that, Super Bowl 24? And then if you go back even further, the Bears over the Patriots, I think was also just an absolute demolition.
Yeah, that was 46-10.
That was the Bears, right?
Yeah, and 49ers Broncos
52-10, right?
Yeah, 55-10.
55-10, yeah.
A lot of Super Bowls back then were actually kind of blowout. Kind of funny.
When I was little, I mean like little, like there was a joke that like you just don't even bother watching the Super Bowl because whoever wins the NFC Championship game is going to demolish the AFC winner.
Yeah, they went on a little bit of a run there. That's for sure. Giants, Washington, Dallas, 49ers. Did they go? AFC went from 83 to 97 right? Without a win. Wow.
Yeah. Any commercials you want to be sure and bring up in this?
Oh God, there were so many. I was reading through a list of one of the grading them, but any you want to hit on is good with me. I tried to retain as many of them as I could. I was already taking notes on the game. I didn't have enough time to take notes on them too.
I actually, before we connected, I went and looked at, the USA Today ad meter, so I could tell you what the top one was. My thesis in this is going to be patriotism, emotion, and nostalgia can get out of here. I just want to see people getting kicked in the nuts.
That's a good one. Or Sydney Sweeney.
Or Sydney Sweeney, sure. That was a kind of a surprise right there at the end.
I saw the tease that Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan did like a couple weeks ago. Hey, we're collaborating. And everybody's like, oh, it's going to be a Super Bowl commercial.
Right.
I didn't think it was gonna be mayonnaise.
That's the other thing, right? Like, why do we have commercials for commercials now?
I don't know. A lot of commercials get released beforehand anyway.
Right.
Which takes the fun out of it. Like the Doritos alien abduction. I'd already seen that like 2 weeks ago. And then the Bud Light backyard party. I saw that too. The
absolute lack of movie commercials really speaks to how we look forward to movies now.
They had the Lilo and Stitch one. That's the only one I remember. And then
they had that. They had How to Train Your Dragon, and I think they had the new Jurassic World in the pregame.
And the Novocaine commercial.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the dude doesn't feel pain. That's it. That's all I remember. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler and Dimitri along with you here on your Monday on the game. Time to hit our Firehouse sub text of the hour, 803-404-6100. Todd, with some complex emotions after last night's game. Commercials were horrible. Halftime show completely sucked. So-called GOAT was a complete bust, but the Eagles won, and Jalen won the MVP. Couldn't be happier. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide indeed. I am with you on the commercials, but I will be honest, Tyler, I was bracing for so much worse. I thought this was going to be the year where like 60 to 75% of the commercials were going to be completely AI. The fact that we didn't get that made me happy. Now, that being said, I don't think we got a lot of good commercials, but at least some effort went into the commercials.
Yeah, there were some that were fine. I mean, Budweiser always has the Clydesdale that's supposed to make you cry, and they did a good job with that.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
That was a terrible commercial, right?
Isn't it supposed to be about the message, though, that like, hey, just because you're not sick doesn't mean you can't be successful or something like that?
Here is where I maybe differ from a lot of people. And again, 803-404-6100 if you want to yell at me. I don't need patriotism.
Okay.
I don't need inspiration.
Okay.
Don't need nostalgia. These are Super Bowl commercials. I need to see celebrities getting kicked in the crotch. And occasionally, if you want to replace the celebrity with a cartoon character from my youth and have his balls take the damage, even better. I don't know what we are doing. Who walks away from a commercial feeling better about themselves, America, the world, humanity? It is such a waste of our time. You like the baby horse commercial because baby horses are adorable. It doesn't make you want to drink Budweiser. It's not art. It is cynical garbage.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I've always leaned into the sillier the better with Super Bowl commercials. The one that was the weirdest in a negative way was the Coffee Mate commercial, if you caught that one.
So I didn't see it. I went back and watched it this morning. I just didn't see it, but as soon as I saw it, I totally got what everybody was talking about with like what sort of drugs were being taken in that ad agency.
Yeah, like the tongue comes out and it goes all over the place. It was just weird. And so it was funny because my wife and I were at the store the other day and we saw that product, the cold foam, in like, because we had to buy coffee cream. And she's like, oh, maybe we should get some of that. We didn't, but thought, hey, maybe next time. And I was like, you want to buy it more now? She said, not really.
Well, can we talk about what is I think not being talked about enough in this Super Bowl is that 2 commercials centered around the idea of flying facial hair. You had Eugene Levy's eyebrows flying all over the place for Little Caesars. And look, I thought that one was fun. I thought it was silly. I didn't need to see it again, but it was everything I want in a Super Bowl commercial. And then we got the Pringles mustaches, basically the exact same commercial.
Yeah, I almost wonder with Eugene Levy, because when I see him, I'm like, oh, that's the dad from American Pie.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know what.
Oh, you're not a Schitt's Creek guy at all.
My mom watched that. I never watched that, but like that's what I think of when I see him. So I'm like, I'm not sure what demographic we're trying to tap into with him being featured in this commercial. And again, the eyebrow thing was funny, but I thought Nick Offerman ending up with James Harden's mustache at the end of the Pringles commercial was great. I personally enjoyed it.
I thought it was a really good commercial. I just hated that its impact was dulled by the fact that I had already seen flying facial hair in this Super Bowl. Anytime we got pairings of celebrities, I thought were good, right? Like I liked the Michelob Ultra commercial with Willem Dafoe, and speaking of Schitt's Creek, the mom from Schitt's Creek, whose name escapes me at the moment, Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, from Home Alone.
Yeah, I liked the commercial with David Beckham and Matt Damon. I don't know if you saw that one because it might have been after you tuned out. It was near the very end of the game.
I did see that one. Because he's his brother,
right?
And he's like, hey, he's Dave Beckham, I guess.
Yeah, is how famous are you? Are you Matt Damon famous? Was the end of it? Yeah,
yes, I did see that one.
Yeah, there were a lot of creative attempts. I didn't think there was a lot of like follow through, excellent commercials, and honestly, I would say this about whatever big event it is. I do not need your commercial to inspire me to do anything but buy your product. Knock it off.
Well, I'm sure there's test groups and things like that justify why those kind of things happen. But yeah, I guess to your point, I've never been more in line to want to buy one of those products of an inspiring commercial as opposed to like Doritos usually does good with the stupid things, right? I'm like, oh, hey, I'm going to buy Doritos anyway. Why not? Because they're pretty goofy.
I will tell you what, it was nothing but stupid. That like I definitely remember the product was the Totino's pizza rolls commercial with first of all the 2 guys from the TV show Detroiters, which I think is an underrated gem. It is on Netflix. You absolutely should watch it. But this alien, it's like the ET going home scene, and the alien does not back up far enough into his spaceship, and he gets squished between the doors. And these kids are just horrified. It was stupid. It was simple. It was perfect. It was everything I wanted from a Super Bowl commercial.
I don't know if I saw that one last night. I know the guy you're talking about because that's kind of like been a running series of commercials with him with this new little alien thing. But I don't recall seeing him getting squished. So I guess that was their big one for the Super Bowl.
The top 5, according to USA Today, in terms of the votes for their ad meter. Number 1 is the Budweiser, the Little Clydesdale. Number 2, the Little Farmer from Lay's. Did you see this one early in the game?
Oh, yeah, where she grew her own potato and then it puts it in the truck with all the other potatoes. Yeah, I did see that one.
Right. Catherine O'Hara and Willem Dafoe are number 3 for Michelob Ultra. Number 4, Stella Artois. That is the David and Dave commercial with Matt Damon and David Beckham. And number 5, the NFL's commercial, the I Am Somebody commercial.
Yeah.
No, it was fine, but again, like I don't need inspiration. I'm already watching the NFL.
That's inspiring kids, though. I don't think that one's meant for you. Unless you need it, I guess.
I mean, look, I've got kids. I want them inspired. I don't need the NFL to do anything other than entertain them with football.
Well, the NFL has to check its PR boxes, so I guess that's part of it.
Sure. And then last night, coming in dead last, Tubi advertising some show called The Z Suite. I don't remember seeing this commercial, but I just watched it back, and it looks like it was made by a 5-year-old for a class project.
Yeah, I remember that one. I didn't understand. I don't know if it was a parody or what, but yeah, it didn't do it for me.
There was no nothing but net for a quarter pounder this year, or anything that I think is going to be years from now iconic. That is for sure.
Right. 1 hour down, 2 more hours to go. It is the halftime show. Tyler and Dimitri along with you on your Monday here in the game.
Sorry,
think
should have
I-
gone right to these and forgot.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Any thoughts at all on commercials on the text line?
I gotta check again. That was local. They said the Jeff Coat Law Firm commercial made them jump out of their seat, but that was a local one. That wasn't like national.
Oh, still, I think that's worth it because I do have thoughts on local commercials during the Super Bowl.
Which I feel like they were all for like whatever that couple minute block is. I think they were just all like law firms here.
Oh, really? We have a company that is across North Carolina called Michael and Sons. They do like home repair stuff. They had Mike Tyson in their commercial.
Really? How'd they pull
Yeah. I was wondering the same thing. I wonder how much that cost them.
Well, I hope their return on investment's good.
All right, when it comes to getting life insurance for your family, a lot of excuses can get in the way. But ask yourself this: if something were to happen to me, who would pay mortgage, your kids' education, and the other bills?
Let's see.
What
do you have coming up here?
Easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month. With a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com.
I don't know whether it was dump Shit's Creek or not.
What does it feel like to file with TaxSlayer and get your
I think it's
guaranteed
okay.
maximum refund? It feels like
It's the name of a show.
of a video game.
Yeah, it's the name of a show.
Boss,
I know, but
you
still.
a refund.
You don't understand. We are in the Bible Belt,
Yeah.
where damn is still a bad word.
Throwing your laptop in this video game face and watching you
What are you looking at?
pile of shiny coin tax refunds. Start your free and get your guaranteed
UPS.
maximum refund.
Let's see.
TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Looking for a tow that won't drive you insane?
Oh,
Schroeder's Towing has got your back and then some. With almost 1,500 Google reviews and a near 5-star rating, Schroeder's Towing is
Shredding
actually the
sensitive
most
data.
respected hookers in town. Whether you're stuck on the side of the road or just need a lift, our reliable service is always
Here?
ready to roll.
Yeah.
Call Schroeder's Towing today.
Schroeder's Talent, the best and fastest bookers in town.
I guess all those lawyers.
Protecting my family's future, I want a life insurance
Hopefully.
company that's at the top of their game. That's why I got same day.
What does the caller want to talk about?
There was no paperwork, no
Who's on the phone?
and no medical exam. I
Some
just
guy
answered
who's
one
upset
question
that Tom
and
Brady
those
came into a break with his shirt tail.
$2 a day. Go to
Oh,
checkethos.com
okay.
With his what?
Shirt tail.
TRYETHOS.com.
He's really mad about that?
TRYETHOS.
Let's do it.
Temple rates as a 10-year.
That's the kind of crazy person I want to talk to.
Scott here with Traditions Fine Jewelers, reminding you that no gift communicates affection more perfectly than fine jewelry. So this Valentine's Day, why mess around? We have thousands of items in every price range, and if you don't know what to get, our staff can help you get exactly the right Valentine's Day gift. And this particular year, diamond studs are the hottest thing going. We have them starting with 1/4 carat total weights for just $99. So come see us at Traditions on Sunset in Lexington and at Sand Hills across from the fountain.
I'm with Steven Samuels of the Samuels.
Call screen your computer isn't responding to.
It means we help people with truly serious injuries, and our entire team will do whatever it takes to make it right. Even if your case is difficult, we have the resources and the
Okay. I gotta do this number.
insurance companies.
Did you send this
Samuels Reynolds.
rundown sheet to Dave too?
I did not. Sorry, I'll do it. What do I
That's-
share it to?
I can send it. I just want to make sure he's got this number. I can send it to him.
All right, so we're starting with this caller.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I'll let you take care of that.
Dave, what's the caller's name? All right.
Game Network and the 107.5 The Game app.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler and Dimitri along with you here on your Monday, reacting to all things Super Bowl as we kick off the 1 o'clock hour, which is football, and more football. We'll get back into reviewing what happened last night with Super Bowl 59 down in New Orleans. I want to get some of your thoughts as well. Let's head out to the Love Chevrolet phone lines. Brent. Oh, well, actually, Brent just hung up. Never mind.
Oh.
Brent, if you want to share your thoughts a little bit later on, please give us a call back, 803-404-6100. I believe Dave told me he had an issue with Tom Brady's attire for last night calling the game.
How? What? Wasn't he just in a suit?
I was interested to hear what he had to say.
I did not notice anything particularly interesting at all about his attire.
I know he had a watch on that probably is worth more than all of us making a year.
I saw this on social media. Someone said that from what it looks like from afar, it looks like this model of watch that was $600,000.
That's why Fox couldn't afford the graphics.
Well, I mean, look, when you make, like, for people that don't know, Tom Brady literally makes $37.5 million a year to do that job for Fox. And look, that money's got to go somewhere.
It does. Yeah, Giselle didn't get the watching the divorce, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting we are talking about Tom Brady because last night, we had Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl again. And I think today I've seen ESPN is already doing the who's the GOAT, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. But, something that jumped out to me last night, Tyler, particularly headed into halftime where it looked like Patrick Mahomes, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he checked out because I did not think Kansas City was out of that game, down 24-0 going into halftime. But he wore the frustration on his face so heavily that for all the talk about you let this dude go out and be Michael Jordan, that's something that Sean McVay was saying to the Fox guys on the pregame show. Dude, there's only one Michael Jordan. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. The prospect of history hangs so heavy over anybody going for anything truly iconic that we can deem anybody we want to the GOAT. But if you notice, there are not a lot of people in the same conversation that are not only the GOAT, but never lost in the championship game. And certainly never got blown out in the championship game.
Well, and I think, and look, I've said this before, I don't get into the GOAT debate of Brady and Mahomes or Jordan and LeBron and those kind of things. But one thing I've noticed, and I'll just go with the Tom Brady example here, you cannot definitively be that in a lot of people's eyes until your career is done, until your entire body of work has been put out there. Because for Tom Brady, it was chasing Joe Montana initially, right? And obviously superseded that. But there was never like one moment where it's like, okay, well, now he's officially the GOAT. It wasn't until, in people's opinion, based on how you feel, you get to the end of his career. It's like, oh, he won 7 Super Bowls. Okay, the most out of any quarterback so far. That's pretty hard to top as of right now. And I hate that we always have to compare things. Everybody has to be compared to the people that came before him. You got to be the next this, got to be the next that. I'm a believer in letting guys have their own careers. And if the end of it, we say, hey, guess what? He won more or won the same or won one less, then that's fine because it's still a successful career. But again, I get why these debates come up. And, Mahomes is never going to be able to escape that shadow of Brady while his entire career is going on probably.
Tyler, I'm not trying to get personal about this or pick a fight, but you are not telling the truth when you say that.
Wow.
You're not telling the truth because you and I would not have jobs if we were not up for the debate and constantly comparing the current to the past. Look, I think that if you are talking about quarterbacks in the NFL, I think Patrick Mahomes is still 100% that dude. I think he has a very legitimate claim right now to is he the best ever? Because if you are talking about not only skins on the wall, but also talent, dude, he and Brady aren't in the same ballpark. Like Brady can't do the things at his best. Tom Brady couldn't do the things that Patrick Mahomes could do. I think the GOAT and Michael Jordan are two very different conversations because there has to be a level of disdain Dave, let's get cut 15 ready. There has to be a level of disdain, a level of preparedness, a level of pettiness within you that would not let something like that pick six from Cooper DeJean happen in the biggest moment of the biggest game.
16, Mahomes rolling out, looking, firing, intercept.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that was the Cooper DeJean pick six early in the game against it makes 17-0 at that point in time.
I believe so. Yeah.
3-score lead. Not long after that, throws the interception to Zach Bond as well, which sets the Eagles up for another score. But yeah, that was one of those moments that was very un-Mahomes-esque.
It was, and look, like I said, I don't think this takes away from anything that makes him great. I have a friend that used to work in TV that, one time I called him after a show got canceled to tell him I was so sorry. I know how hard he had worked on this show. And he made this point, and I think it applies to getting to be at the Super Bowl, the national championship game, World Series, whatever. He said, when you think about all of the processes that you have to successfully complete along the way, and all of the times that someone else's opinion, mistake, better preparedness, whatever, could have derailed it. Getting there, you really appreciate that getting there. And in his case, he's talking about getting a show to television. Yep. In this case, let's talk about the Super Bowl. You appreciate that that's the victory. And whatever happens after that is just, icing on the cake, gravy, whatever it is you want to call it. And so I don't want to say that it does not hurt Patrick Mahomes to have lost this game. I'm sure he feels a lot of hurt in this, but so what? You didn't get your fourth in 6 years. Like, the dude's 29, right? I don't think he's 29. Even 30 yet.
So he has the same number of Super Bowl wins before the age of 30 that Tom Brady has. And as long as he stays healthy, there's no reason he can't play another 10, 12, 15 years and perhaps rival, if not pass those numbers.
I mean, but think about some of the other names. Like, he, before the age of 30, has more Super Bowls than Peyton Manning got. Yep. Before the age of 30, he has more Super Bowls than John Elway got. Like, you could line up a lot of the guys that we talk about as unequivocally the best to ever do this, and Patrick Mahomes is already ahead of them. There is this drive to win, but also this ability to just say, oh, I'm going to make sure we don't lose, that I don't know that we've ever seen anybody other than Michael Jordan have before. So when we talk about he's Jordan, or we have the GOAT debate, particularly in the world of basketball, I think you got to put Michael Jordan on a shelf all his own, right? The guy that we talk about with the drive that was closest to Michael Jordan was Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant lost in the finals a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's a level of accomplishment that I think, because we have the GOAT debate, right? Like, to your point earlier, because we have shows like First Take that are built on this kind of debate, I think we've lost sight of just how impressive never losing in 6 trips to whatever your championship is, the finals, Super Bowl, World Series, whatever. Like, we've lost sight of just how impressive it is to never lose and to play at that level the whole time.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And for the Jordan LeBron debate, because I was not alive to see the majority of Jordan's career, then I can't speak to it outside of highlights and looking up stats and all those kind of things, and watching the Last Dance documentary. But all those guys obviously deserve their place at the top of the sport. I feel like, I guess personally, because I feel like the GOAT debate goes round and round, because you're never going, if somebody believes differently than you, you're never going to convince them otherwise, no matter what kind of facts or statistics throw at them, because they have an idea in their mind that LeBron's the best or Jordan's the best or whatever it may be, and no amount of information you provided them is going to change that debate.
Well, and it's not only that, Tyler. Like, all right, so I was alive for the Jordan run, and obviously was alive for LeBron. And I firmly am in the camp of how lucky I am to have been alive to see the 2 best players in NBA history at their absolute peak. I do not think it is ridiculous to have the GOAT debate, but I do think it's pretty clear Jordan is the best player of all time. I can't even get dudes my age, Tyler, to come around to it's not ridiculous to have this conversation. Like, that's how dug in people get on this point.
And there's a lot of belief that anything that was older is better. You know, we all have
Right.
nostalgia that, hey, the TV shows that were on when I was a kid are better than the ones on now for, you know, the 7 and 8-year-olds that are watching Nickelodeon these days. Probably feel the same way about whatever you watched when you were a kid and so on and so forth. So the guys we grew up watching or that were the heroes of sports and we were, you know, 10 to 15 are way better than the guys that are happening right now when we're in our 20s and 30s. So it goes in cycles and everybody's going to believe it whatever way satisfies them. And, you know, checks that box for them, I guess.
Well, we don't just get locked into what it was we had when we were kids. We get locked into the way things were specifically. Look at The Simpsons, right? Like, don't talk to me about any Simpsons season after 17. And really, I don't want to watch any after 13. And we're coming up on what, 41, I believe? Like, that's insane. And I'll never see those episodes because they're not the ones that I grew up with.
Sure. Yeah, I feel the same way about Family Guy. I haven't watched a new episode in 12 years, but man, those early seasons, phenomenal.
Where do we put, like, see, I think you could put Dawn Staley into this conversation of, given the way that college athletics are constructed now, is the fact that the number of championships she has does not touch Pat Summitt or Gino Auriemma. Is it irrelevant? Because it's just a harder thing to do now. I think it's a fair conversation to have myself.
Certainly a fair conversation. They're currently the model of what women's basketball is. And if you want to win a national championship, you're probably going to have to go through them in the process of doing that. And this year is no different. And again, her career is far from over. So who knows what it's going to be like when it's all said and done. Before we get into that, I believe, Dave, do we still have our guy back on the line again? Okay, we have Brent who wants to give his Tom Brady take.
Okay,
Brent, appreciate your call. What is frustrating you about Tom Brady?
Yes, I'm very curious because it seems so unremarkable. Tell me about it.
Hey guys, so it was before kickoff yesterday. Tom Brady was doing, I think, walking along the street with Michael Strahan in a Nola Strong T-shirt. You know, it's a great message. But it looked like Tom Brady, half his shirt was tucked in, half of it was tucked out. He looked like he just walked out of a porta-john. So I'm a little surprised that it gets a little more news.
Brent, I'm glad you brought this up because I thought you were talking about the suit he was wearing during the game. But Tyler,
yes,
here's the thing. I also noticed this.
Did you really?
I did. I wasn't paying attention to the shirt. Is Brent still there or did Brent go?
Don't know. Do we still have him? Is he still on? There he is. Okay.
Okay. Brent, for a second, did you think Tom Brady was wearing leather pants? Because I thought he was wearing leather pants.
It was insanely, I don't know, feminine or something. I don't know. That guy, he's a different breed now.
It was clear. Thanks for the call, Brent. It was clear Strahan was wearing jeans, and whatever Brady was wearing was black, tight, and shiny. I at first thought it was leather. It may have just been slacks.
I know what you're talking about. I watched this too because they all gathered around Lady Gaga to sing in the middle of the street about New Orleans Strong.
Which, by the way, do you realize they actually put a carpet down on Bourbon Street to film? Like, you've got to burn that carpet now, right?
Oh God, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you're right. That carpet can never be ever used again. But I didn't take enough notice into what Tom Brady was wearing, I guess.
I am nothing if not a fashionista. Me and Brent are holding it down for all the men in South Carolina. All right, bringing it back to Dawn, I think it is worth asking, is there a new final boss in the SEC? Not a lot of teams have made Dawn Staley's Lady Gamecocks look like that. We will talk about that next with Mitch Northam of the Women's Basketball Podcast. He is Tyler Head. I'm Demetri Ravanos. This is 107.5 The Game and the Game Sports Network.
Give Dave this number. Four 924 4369 4369. Okay. All right.
107.5 The Game, broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. Take up to $20K off new Silverados. Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive. What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet, the best selection of new Chevys right now. No hassle, no ridiculous add-on stickers. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
Firehouse Subs is excited to introduce for a limited time their delicious French dip sub. This hearty and craveable sub starts with premium roast beef loaded with caramelized onions, melted Swiss and provolone cheese, and topped with Italian seasoning, all on a toasted garlic bread roll and served with hot au jus for dipping. Visit any one of their Columbia locations to try it today, or you can skip the line and download the Firehouse Subs app. Be sure to support the Firehouse Foundation by rounding up your donations to help local fire departments purchase life-saving equipment.
If you've ever been to a Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union, you know there's something different about the people who work there. They're the type of people who mail a wallet they found on the street back to the owner, who always share their fries, who say bless you when you sneeze, even if it's like 5 sneezes in a row, who get just as excited when something good happens to you as if it happened to them. You know what? Maybe you should just stop by sometime and see for yourself. Palmetto Citizens. Feel the love. Federally insured by NCUA.
This is Larry Lightman, owner and founder of Midstate Roofing, and for nearly 30 years, we've continued to be the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. Midstate Roofing's proven history is your assurance that our professionals at Midstate Roofing will provide the proper advice, service, and results.
Before we go to Mitch here, hang on, who is this that just put this out? Sportsbetting.ag just put out a list of odds for all 31 teams for where Debo could end up next year.
Okay.
So I'm just going to mention very quickly, because we talked about no Gamecocks in this, and also the Panthers are in the top 3.
Okay. We can do that.
Midstate Roofing staff member during at 803-356-1919 or online at midstateroofing.com. And as always, tell them Midstate Twin.
If you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
Shepherd's Glass has provided commercial, residential, and auto glass installation, repair, and replacement to Columbia for over 50 years. Large retail storefronts, auto, custom shower enclosures, and mirrors for that remodeling or new construction project. Visit shepherdsglass.com to see and learn more. Now with 2 locations on Flat Springs Road in West Columbia and Chapin at 855 Chapin Road. Shepherdsglass.com. Shepherd's Glass.
Shepherd's Glass.
It starts as a nuisance, and you just put up with it. But then that awful joint pain impacts everything in your life. Walking, climbing stairs, even getting in and out of the car hurts. It's Preston Thorne. And here's the good news. QC Kinetics groundbreaking treatments for arthritis pain and long-term relief is now possible. At QC Kinetics, their regenerative treatments are sweeping the nation. Thousands of QC Kinetics patients will tell you, and don't wait. Make the call today and talk to the local medical professionals. Their new orthobiological cellular therapies, including PRP treatments, can revitalize your joints, all without going under the knife. QC Kinetics treatments prompt your body to heal and restore those damaged joints, and you won't miss a beat, and there's no downtime. So call QC Kinetics today for free consultation at 803-281-6860. 6860. Make that call. You deserve to be pain-free in 2025.
Powered by Integrated Media, the Game TV, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass for auto, home, and commercial glass. Shepherd'sGlass.com. In Chapin in West Columbia, the Game TV is sponsored by.
Welcome back in. It's the halftime show. Tyler Head and Dimitri along with you here on your Monday on the game. Time to jump into some women's basketball. Welcome in on Love Chevrolet phone lines, Mitch Northam of the Women's Basketball Podcast. Mitch, first of all, appreciate your time this afternoon. Before the big game yesterday was another big game with South Carolina going on the road in a top 5 showdown with Texas, a team they had dominated a couple weeks ago at Colonial Life Arena, come up short 66-62 out in Austin to split the series for the season, in the regular season at least, and lose their first conference game regular season-wise since December of 2021. It's obviously hard to win this league, especially on the road. Your level of surprise that Dawn Staley's crew came up short yesterday?
Yeah, a little surprised, just because it's pretty rare that Dawn Staley's crew comes up short in general. But not totally surprised. I've been talking all season about how there's, the concern with the South Carolina team is that they don't have that dominant center that a lot of these Dawn Staley teams have had, right? This team doesn't have a Camila Cardozo. They don't have an Aaliyah Boston. They don't have an Asia Wilson. And you look at the box score from last night, and what happened to them is something that rarely happens to a Dawn Staley team, is that they got dominated inside. Texas outscored them in the paint 40-26. Texas won the rebounding battle, which is also something that usually doesn't happen to South Carolina. And so I think even more so now, this was a concern I had coming into the season for South Carolina. But they kind of figured it out along the way and, pieced a formidable front court together with Ashlyn Watkins and Chloe Kitts and Aya Fegan, Joyce Edwards, the freshman. But you take Ashlyn Watkins out of that now. She's out for the year with an injury. And there's some concern there. The SEC has a lot of really good and talented front court players and centers. And we've seen twice now. Two of South Carolina's losses, the loss to UCLA, the centerpiece of that was Lauren Betts, UCLA's 6'7" center. This game against Texas has a really experienced front court player in Taylor Jones in her 6th year of college basketball, and Madison Booker, a sophomore who's probably going to be an All-American this year. So what does South Carolina do going forward, like with these kind of teams in these kind of games against really talented post players is kind of the question I have coming out of it.
And Mitch, that's kind of the thing that it's the reason that I don't want to just focus on the end of that game. Like Texas clearly was in control the whole way, even when Carolina did come back to tie it up. But it is hard not to look at that last sequence with Tessa Johnson missing the layup, wondering where the whistle was. And look, from an uneducated point of view, it looked to me like Carolina gave up on the play and just allowed Texas to get the rebound and basically in the game because they were waiting for a whistle.
Yeah, that's the other thing that you have here. It's like, who's the bus driver for the South Carolina team? Who is the player that when the game gets tight like that, like it did yesterday, who's getting the ball, who's making the play, who's dragging you to a win? And yeah, in those final moments there, you mentioned, the play with Tessa. And then later on in that fourth quarter, when they still have a chance to win, 9 seconds to go, they settle for a 3-pointer from Sanaya Fegan, who is not a 3-point shooter really much at all. And so, yeah, that's the other question I have is like, who is the superstar on this team? Last year when games got tight, it was, we'll just give the ball to Camila Cardozo because she's bigger and taller than everyone else, and most teams are going to have a hard time stopping her going to the rim. They just don't have that player this year, unless it's someone like Joyce Edwards or Malaysia Fulwiley, and we just haven't seen it yet because, their playing time really hasn't been that far up. So I kind of wonder, most interesting to me is like what Dawn going forward from here. Does she change a little bit sort of how this roster is going to act and move going forward? Is she going to mix up some rotations? I think that's something that comes out of this game.
And talking to Mitch Northam of the Women's Basketball Podcast, and as you mentioned, no Cardozo, no just physical presence in the middle of this team that you've had for the past couple of years, and I'm assuming Dawn's going to be able to find that, whether it be in the portal or in the next couple of recruiting cycles, to reestablish that presence back on the court once again. But as the years go by, is it more of other programs catching up to where South Carolina is, or is the South Carolina kind of falling back to the rest of the pack and the way that the rest of women's basketball is going?
I think it's probably more of the former. I think just over the past really 5 years, you've seen more teams. This coincides with the advent of the transfer portal and has allowed movement to be a lot easier in all of college sports, not just women's college basketball. But certainly, I think that the transfer portal has increased the parity in the sport and kind of leveled the playing field a little bit. And then also on the flip side of that, I think you're just seeing as we see money start to come into women's college basketball, we're going to get units this year for the first time from the NCAA tournament, which means the teams that compete and win in the NCAA tournament are going to get payouts which is something the men's had for a long time. I think as you see the money start to flow more in women's college basketball's direction, you're going to see more schools and teams invest in the sport and invest in coaches and invest in recruiting. So going forward, like, not all the best players and all Americans are going to go to South Carolina and UConn. They're going to go to a lot of different places. They're going to go to North Carolina and NC State and Kansas State and Texas and, all over the country. So, yeah, I do think like there is, a little bit more of a level playing field now. But that's not to say that South Carolina still, they have a chance still to kind of win this thing and get back to the Final Four, and we'll see what happens when they get there. There's still a chance for them to right the ship this season.
Mitch, before we let you go, we both know that Dawn is the ultimate competitor in this sport, but we also know she loves her Eagles. So, like yesterday, good day or bad day for Dawn Staley?
Judging by her social media channels, it seemed like a good day. I saw her with an Eagles jersey on and the big, oversized hat, dancing in some too short. So it seemed like she moved on from the loss pretty quickly. It's just a regular season loss, and it doesn't end like an undefeated season for them since they already have the 1L. So, she gets to celebrate her Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and then, go back to the drawing board. They have a pretty manageable, regular season slate the rest of the way. I think the one thing, that I would be concerned about if I'm a South Carolina fan right now is like hanging on to one of those top number one seeds to make sure that you can play in Birmingham in the second weekend. But right now, I think Dawn's celebrating, and she'll get back to the drawing board here shortly.
Do you think Dawn is aware that the giant hats have kind of gone out of style? Is she trying to keep that alive?
I don't think she cares. She had the giant hat, and she decided, I'm going to wear this, and this is how I'm going to celebrate. I want to see her break out that Eagles throwback Letterman jacket she had earlier this year. Maybe we'll see that again in the next game if she's still continuing the celebration, or maybe one of those throwback Kelly Green, Randall Cunningham kind of jerseys.
Well, be honest,
that would be sweet.
I was kind of expecting the Cunningham jersey yesterday at the Texas game, but
kudos to whatever Stafford got. Kudos to whatever Stafford got set out to go find the official Super Bowl 59 merch before the game.
Yeah, she got a scoop somewhere. Eagles hooked her up for sure, it seems like.
New episodes every Wednesday on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. It is the Women's Basketball Podcast with Mia and Mitch. He is Mitch Northam. Mitch, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So Carolina is down but not out in women's basketball. That sounds an awful lot like one of the teams on the field in the Super Bowl last night. We will get into that coming up next. He is Tyler Head. I am Demetri Ravanis. This is The Game.
Can you hear this speaker above me?
Yeah, I mean, not super well, but I can hear it. You mean when we're on air talking, or right now?
Like right now. You can hear that?
Right now, yeah.
Because I'm going to run to the bathroom. If I don't get back in time, I just want to make sure you know when the break ends.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Clean home from Zerorez. Carpet cleaning is sure to impress your loved one. Only Zerorez uses ZR water to clean your carpets and other surfaces without harsh chemicals. To make things sweeter, they leave zero residue so your carpets stay cleaner longer. From now until Valentine's Day, get 2 rooms for free when you book 2 rooms for only $119. Call and mention Meet Bill Gunner at 1075 The Game or book online at ZerorezColumbia.com. Host your next event at Hilton Garden Inn downtown for a seamless and memorable experience. Whether it's a corporate meeting, training session, family reunion, or wedding, their flexible meeting space can accommodate up to 320 people and is equipped with top-notch audio-visual equipment. With on-site catering services, you can focus on your event while Hilton Garden Inn takes care of the rest. Contact the sales department at 803-227-3400 to book your event and enjoy the comfort, convenience, and hospitality of Hilton Garden Inn, Columbia downtown.
It's a new era for Carolina baseball. Now is the perfect time to make your plans for the
the upcoming season. Head coach Paul Maneri will lead the Gamecocks in 2025 as they host Clemson, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Florida, LSU, and more at Ray Tanner Field at Founders Park. We want to see you at Founders Park all season long. Season tickets start at less than $9 per game. Get your tickets today at thegamecockclub.com so you can catch all the games at Founders Park this season.
Honey, look, the hookers. They've moved off the highway and now they're all over the parking lot.
What are all those Schroeder's towing trucks doing in that parking lot, though?
Must be towing all those unauthorized cars parked in the lot. Good thing the business owner called Schroeder's Towing to keep their parking lot clear for just their customers. Didn't those cars see the free signage that Schroeder's provides to business owners to deter unauthorized parking?
I guess not.
Schroeder's Talent, the best and fastest burgers in town.
Hi, my husband and I own a small business in Columbia, and we ended up needing some help with some tax problems that we had and needed to get resolved. We initially owed about $300,000, and John Ecton and his law firm ended up getting us an offer in compromise, which dramatically reduced the amount owed. I would personally recommend the Ecton Law Firm. They did an excellent job for us, and if this is a concern that you're facing, they're definitely the people you should call.
It's great to know we've changed people's lives for the better. Hi, this is local attorney John Ecton with the Ecton Law Firm. For over a decade, our office has been dedicated to helping hardworking individuals and businesses solve tax problems for good. So if you have years of unfiled tax returns or are facing IRS wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, call our office today at 771-9800 or go to EctonLawFirm.com. That's ECTON lawfirm.com. Let's get your tax problem solved for good. Call today. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, Gamecocks. Big Cato, third generation owner of Cato's Power Equipment. With some great news for anyone looking to add some new lawn equipment to their garage or trailer. Just in time for spring, we've got awesome financing options that let you spread your steel, Toro, or Gravely equipment purchase out over 3, 4, or even 5 years with no interest. For any budget, any yard, Cato's Power Equipment has the best equipment around with top-notch service to back it up. Come shop our huge selection of zero turns today.
Subs, so ladder jingle, take one.
Hook your ladder, when it's hot, it just tastes better. Warm that smoky turkey, that thin slice.
Guys, this is a 30-second ad. You gotta sing faster.
Hook your ladder, when it's hot, it just tastes better. Melty cheese and toast spread, mustard mayo, fresh spread. Lettuce, green, and onion. The sandwich is too big for the song. It's too big.
The Hook and Ladder, available only at participating Firehouse Subs restaurants.
It's not just a donation.
It's a warm blanket. It's a bottle of clean water.
It's a roof and a bed. Please donate now to help people affected by the 2025 California wildfires.
Go to redcross.org to help.
What you're talking about, sponsored by Love Chevrolet on the Game Network.
Tyler's not back yet, so it's all you.
My name is Demetri Ravanis, alongside Tyler Head, in today for Terry Ford, who is, for some reason, taking the easiest sports radio day of the year off. Like, I got to be honest with you, for those of us in this business, the Monday after the Super Bowl, even coming to work is basically like a free vacation because there is something everybody is talking about, right? But in Columbia, in the state of South Carolina, maybe you are also talking about the Gamecock women disappointing loss yesterday in Texas, as it just really looked like the Longhorns absolutely had control of that game from start to finish. Even when Carolina brought it back to tie it within a point or two, it just always looked like Texas was in the lead. And Tyler, that kind of made me think a little bit about one of the teams playing down in New Orleans last night in the Super Bowl, because I think it is fair to say that even if the Carolina women aren't dominating, at least within the SEC and a lot of years within the entire country, this is still the team to beat. And I think that is true of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, one loss doesn't change the perspective. And if anything, a little bit different because the Chiefs got dominated last night. When you watch a dynasty lose a game, it's very odd, right? It's very jarring to a
Especially
degree.
because it's been so long since we have seen any regular season losses here, let alone 2 and now 1 in conference.
Let's go back to, this would have been the 2018 season when Clemson and Alabama played for the national championship, and Clemson dominated Alabama.
Yep.
And it's one thing to beat them like they did, the year prior, 2 years prior. And it's another thing to just go out there and just physically manhandle them and beat them by 20 some odd, 30 some odd points, however much the point differential in that game was. It was like, whoa, we don't see Saban teams lose like that. Same thing last night with the Chiefs, saying, man, the Andy Reid era Chiefs don't lose games like that. And to a degree, a little bit with Carolina yesterday, because Texas was the more physical team in that game, which usually that's Dawn Staley's bread and butter, defense and physicality. They rarely lose that battle, which they did yesterday.
The Chiefs have some things to fix. I think it is fair to say Dawn has some things to fix with her team, but Charlie Cream, who does the bracketology for women's basketball on ESPN, says he is not taking this team off of a 1 seed line, at least for right now. And I don't think anybody believes they are done. I would say that the Chiefs have to correct their offensive line problems. They probably need a real dominant go-to weapon for Patrick Mahomes, particularly as Travis Kelce gets older and older every year. But I don't think anybody would right now tell you they don't think the Chiefs could be right back in the Super Bowl next year.
No, and since we're kind of making these comparisons, let's go back to 2 years ago when Carolina lost in the Final Four to Iowa, an Iowa team that, was maybe not the best team defensively, but they knew South Carolina was not the most efficient team offensively, and they just pushed them to the outside and said, hey, shoot threes. We know you can't beat us that way. And they lost that game. Iowa obviously went on to play in the national championship game and came up short to LSU. And in that offseason, Dawn Staley said, okay, I need to get better in these areas of offense, which she did, went out in the transfer portal, brought in a lot of talent, and they were one of the best offenses in all of women's basketball last year. And I kind of feel like the Chiefs are in a similar place where, it's great that you can rely on your defense to win you games and Patrick Mahomes to work his magic, but that eventually runs out, which we saw last night, saying, okay, between the draft and free agency, how can you go out there and, like you said, Travis Kelce may not play another game. His career may be over for all we know. So he certainly looks like he's, a shell of what he once was.
I mean, even if he does play, look at him this year compared to last year and really 2 years ago.
Yeah, he's not going to be the consistent guy you need him or that he once was. And, Nuke Hopkins looked like he was 90 years old, dropping that one pass, out by midfield last night without a soul around him to give him any problems there. So, and you see some things with Xavier Worthy coming along is kind of be that Tyreek Hill type of speedster, but you need other guys. You need true weapons on that offense. Like you said, you need an established ground game. You need to get better on the offensive line because you can't just keep hanging your hat on, hey, defense will hold them under 20 points. And as long as you score 21, we'll be okay, because clearly you ran into a buzzsaw of a defense last night. It didn't work.
And the other thing that the Gamecock women have in common with the Chiefs, and Dave, if you will get cut number 6 ready, is everybody on their schedule has them circled. Everybody on their schedule looks at playing Carolina as the chance to make an impact, make an impression on the AP poll voters. Take a listen to what Dawn said about the atmosphere in Austin yesterday.
Music, loud cheers. It's great. It's great. It's great for women's basketball. Probably great for TV. Close game. Great for our game. It's just unfortunate somebody had to lose, and it's fortunate that they won.
So if the Carolina women are the Chiefs, I think this is when we all kind of have to swallow hard. Maybe gnash our teeth, bite our upper lip, and ask, Tyler, are the Carolina men the Carolina Panthers? Because I think we all came in with some hope into this season because of what they did last year. Maybe not that they were going to win the SEC. Maybe not even that they were going to get back to the tournament as easily as they made it last year. But it wasn't supposed to be off the rails for a second year. We weren't supposed to so quickly be off the rails. I was putting it in terms of the Panthers for a second year in a row, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, and we've been following this week in and week out, day in and day out with this, onslaught of 10 straight conference losses in a row. And no, it wasn't supposed to be like this. And, did you think you were going to be maybe in the running for the SEC regular season title in the last week of the season like you were last year? Maybe not. This is a tough league and it got tougher with the additions of Texas and Oklahoma, but, I think everybody set the goal, going into January, like, hey, if you can be around 500 in conference play with how good this league is, you'll probably get yourself back in the tournament and then, obviously go from there. But, now you're just in this area where you have no hope outside of a miracle run in Nashville, which fortunately for Carolina, they let all the teams in this year because they expanded the conference as opposed to letting the bottom two teams stay at home like it's been the past couple of years. So technically hope is not lost, but there aren't too many people here that believe they're going to suddenly flip a switch a month from now and do anything, like what Georgia did back in 2008 to go run through the tournament and make their way into the NCAA tournament. Like those kind of things tend not to happen more often than not. So it's very clear, and I said this earlier, that Colin Murray-Bowles is the best player on this team. We knew he was. He's going to be a first-round draft pick coming up here in a couple months. They don't have anything else around him. And
well, it's interesting, right? Because they worked pretty hard in the transfer portal. I mean, Jamari Thomas, one of the better players out of the MEAC. Nick Pringle, a key piece of an Alabama team that went to the Final Four last year. And their contributions are there in numbers, but you're right. There is nobody when Carolina is in these games, as they have been so often this season, where they are playing teams a lot better than them and within striking distance late in the second half. There is nobody the Gamecock men can turn to put it away outside of Connor.
No, they can. And when you look at those guys like Thomas and Pringle, who did bring some excitement, they were also flawed in areas coming in here. Jamari Thomas, for as great of a player as he was in the MEAC, was not kind of a pass-first type of guy, which is something we've talked about a lot. Talon Cooper last year was a pass-first point guard, ran the offense very efficiently, and Jamari Thomas is somebody that likes to shoot a lot, and he did that on Saturday once again and wasn't overly successful with it. Nick Pringle, as big as he is not the presence down low that you would think a 6'10" guy would be, and he wanted to come to Carolina to prove that he could be that guy, and it just hasn't ended up being what he expected. And, Zachary Davis is a loose cannon. He'll score you 20 points, but may also turn the ball over 12 times. You just don't have any consistency around him on the offense or the defense that, the point I brought up earlier, Colin Murray-Bowles played 29 minutes on Saturday. So there was 11 minutes he was not on the court. In those 11 minutes, Carolina's offense only managed 7 points and was 3 of 15 from the field. When Colin Murray-Boyles plays 30 minutes or less in conference play, they're getting beat by an average of 24.5 points. Like that tells you the whole story of this team being a one-man team, which again, as big of an impact as one person can make in basketball, you're not going to go anywhere with a one-person team.
And we've seen in the history of college basketball, particularly men's college basketball, although, you brought up that Iowa team earlier. Maybe that was a one-woman team on the women's side. We have seen teams go to either deep tournament runs or onto national championships on the strength of one truly elite player. I think the SEC being what it is this year, like Colin could be 5 or 10 times the player he is. One dude's not enough to win this conference this year. It's not enough to be competitive in this conference this year.
It's not. And Coach Paris has talked about CMB does not like to be selfish. Which, wants to get the ball to his teammates, wants to help those guys out, try to bring those guys along. But sometimes you just got to take the ball yourself and know you're the best guy on the court. And, that's been detrimental to him at times and this team that, he's not as selfish and aggressive as he needs to be because, again, he's above everybody else. And it's clear when he's not on the court how dysfunctional this team can be.
Yeah. Fighting words are real and sometimes they are accurate. And when they are accurate, you have no choice but to throw hands. It's why I have started watching the Super Bowl and other big football games alone. I will explain more when we come back. That is Tyler Head. I am Demetri Ravanos. This is 107.5 The Game and the Game Sports Network. I think I did okay, faking my way through men's basketball talk.
Yeah, I think you did fine. Who knows we don't have to do.
All right, how long do I have here? Do I have time to run to the bathroom real quick?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yep.
Great performances of all times. They did blitz once and still generated 16 pressures and sacked Patrick Mahomes 6 times. Maybe they're not as vaunted as the 85 Bears or the Legion of Boom Seahawks, but this defense is definitely nickname worthy. These very few units in NFL history could have done what they did to the Chiefs in New Orleans. I'm Andrew Burrow.
When it comes to protecting my family's future, I want a life insurance company that's at the top of their game. That's why I got same-day coverage through Ethos. There was no paperwork, no waiting around, and no medical exam. I just answered a few health questions online, and Ethos set me up with a $3 million policy for about $2 a day. Go to checkethos.com and get it done today. That's CHECKETHOS.com. Checkethos.com. Sample rates is a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy non-smoking male. Billed monthly.
Getting your guaranteed maximum refund with TaxSlayer feels like saddling up and chasing down. Look at that sweet moolah! That big old cash cow. Look at all that money! File with TaxSlayer Simply Free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. Simply Free is available to a limited number of taxpayers. See TaxSlayer.com for eligibility.
Correct. All sevens now. We got a $250,000 all sevens for a client injured in a car accident when driver illegally turned in front of him.
Down all sevens now.
And that's the pool from it's not scared to go to court. We got a $2.5 million jury verdict for our client when the other driver failed to yield. What do you do? Good heavens. Dial all seven.
To get your attorney, dial 800-ALL-7s now.
In the U.S., more than 39 million men suffer from erectile dysfunction. Boston Scientific created edcure.com to help you find your best cure. To get started, go to edcure.com, take a quiz, and learn your severity or risk of ED. The fastest way to find your best cure is to contact an ED specialist by browsing a list of experienced physicians in your area. edcure.com. You're not alone. edcure.com is brought to you by Boston Scientific.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex saline from Vicks.
Sinex saline nasal spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex saline instantly cures everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies.
Do we want to real quick start with, as we were talking, the women's AP poll came out. Carolina dropped 2 spots.
Yeah, we can. I just saw that too. I gotta I'll hit our text of the hour coming back in real quick, and then we can hit that.
Word.
Now there's an affordable fix for you.
We just mentioned it and move on to the segment itself, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah, that's fine.
The highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Show with Jerry Ford and Tyler Head on the King Network and on the 107.5 The King.
Welcome back in, Halftime Show. Tyler and Dimitri along with you here on your Monday on the game. Got to hit our Firehouse Subs text of the hour, 803-404-6100. At the beginning of the hour, we were discussing Tom Brady's fashion. Nameless texter clarifies it was an $800,000 watch. Dave, what was the number you gave me earlier?
That was me. I told you
740.
Oh, 740. Okay. On social media, they were speculating around 600. So whatever number you got, it was not the right one, according to that texter.
Would you use a watch enough to justify that? Even if you had as much money as Tom Brady has, are you actually looking at that thing enough, or is it just like, hey, it looks good with this suit?
That's what it is, right? Like, look, I'm wearing an Apple Watch, right? I only wear this for when I ride my bike so that I know how far I've gone, what kind of time I make. Otherwise, I would not even own a watch. It is ridiculous. By the way, we were talking in the last segment about the Gamecock women and Gamecock men's basketball teams. The women, the rankings came out as we were talking. Dawn Staley's crew slides 2 spots down to number 4. Texas vaults ahead of them at number 3. UCLA still number 1. And to sort of put a exclamation point on what I said about CMB, no matter how good he is, one dude is not going to be enough on the men's side in the SEC this year. 4 of the top 5 in the country are out of the Southeastern Conference. Auburn and Alabama, 1 and 2. They are different in each poll. And then Florida and Tennessee and Duke make up the rest of the top 5.
Well, the SEC is still trending to get like 12 or 13 teams in the tournament.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a historic year in basketball. I don't know if people experience the Super Bowl the way you and I do, Tyler, because if you work in and around sports, obviously the Super Bowl is a big thing. And because you and I have to pay attention in different ways, we've got to pay attention to all of it because we come in and we talk like you really cannot even take a bathroom break during the Super Bowl. I've gotten to the point where I watch big football games by myself.
Yeah, it was just me and the wife last night. I've not been to a Super Bowl party in almost 10 years. I think the Broncos-Panthers Super Bowl was the last time. And I hosted it myself. It was a handful of friends. But yeah, when you have to pay attention to the game because you got to talk about it, I'm like, nope, just us.
Well, not only that, when you do this for a living, people want to come at you with their takes about the game. And in some cases, it is friendly. And in some cases, it can be adversarial, them wanting to show you how much more they know than you do. I stumbled across this on Instagram, and I think this holds true for dudes that love sports. Do you know the comedian? Have you ever heard the name Dan Yang before, Tyler?
Yes, I have.
All right. So I only have ever seen him on Instagram, but he has posed the theory that the phrase, "you don't know ball," is the most fighting of fighting words that one man could say to another. Take a listen. Oh, do we have it?
Oh, hold on.
But you also have to be careful with this because
not that one. Not that
you
one.
point out someone doesn't know ball, but it turns out
not that one.
It's actually you that doesn't know ball.
Hold on,
because that's the big reveal.
Okay.
All right.
Have the other one.
Yeah, the one kind don't know ball.
I don't think we have. I think that one got lost somewhere in the.
No. Tyler, we might as well change the subject because who cares now? You like football, Tyler? Isn't it neat?
I do. I
think we have all been in this situation before, right? Of you are at a Super Bowl party with somebody that is talking so confidently and sounding like a blithering idiot.
Right.
Okay. Thank you for weighing in there. It is the reason that I am not watching Super Bowl with anybody else these days. That game last night is interesting. It was not. How do you describe a game, Tyler, that is both not competitive and simultaneously still entertaining?
I guess it depends on what side you're on. I think it's the morbid curiosity of seeing a dominant team like the Chiefs get kind of beaten to a pulp.
Maybe, but
people engaged.
I don't know that it stops at morbid curiosity because what the Eagles were doing, both defensively and when Jalen Hurts would, do anything, it was worth watching last night. Now, I'm with you. If you were rooting for the Chiefs, that was probably tough to stick with. But I think even though that most of us kind of had an idea how this was going to go by the end of the second quarter, it was still not a game that you were eager to turn off and move on about your day. Now, that might just be diehard football fans that feel that way because we have lived under this Chiefs umbrella for so long. But I thought, despite the fact that it was not competitive, it was still a decent game yesterday.
Yeah, it definitely was. In terms of, I don't know, two teams that I guess were evenly matched in a lot of ways because they kind of obviously both lean into defense. And then again, just when you have one side that's physically just overpowering the other, like the Eagles defense was, then you kind of get the result you end up with, unfortunately, for Chiefs fans.
We were talking about this earlier, and I do think that the Chiefs have some adjustments to make in order to get back to being a dominant team. I think the Eagles are set up to be in control of the NFL for a long time, and I wonder if we are on the verge of a very uncomfortable Warriors-Cavaliers type, like we know how this is going to end every year for the next half decade.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, it's one loss in 3 straight years of the Super Bowl, and again, the Chiefs do have a lot of work in the offseason to kind of retool what they have and get themselves back into a better spot. And look, Andy Reid's a great coach. We'll trust him to do that, and we'll see if they're right back in the same spot this time next year.
Last night's game had fans watching all over the world, but for the most part, you know, when you talk about the connection, you are talking about Kansas City and you were talking about Philadelphia, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about the Super Bowl in the context of the state of South Carolina, because it is something that was lacking. It was a conversation that we probably were not having a whole lot of last night as we watch the game. We will get into that coming up in just a moment. Tyler, is there anything you need to add here real quick?
No, that's 2 hours in the book, 1 more hour to go, and we'll dive into that perspective coming up next. It is the halftime show. He's Dimitri. I'm Tyler on your Monday here on The Game.
Sorry. No problem.
No
The
problem.
gesturing, I thought you were trying to tell me there was something you had to hit.
No. I was looking to see what went wrong. Those, for some reason, those files show up as different names on my computer from when I downloaded them. So I thought I had the right thing put in there because I had the backfire in there.
Yeah.
But I thought it was the same one as the Don't Know Ball, the way that it showed up in there. And yeah, that got twisted.
Yeah, whatever it was, no big deal. We move on. We put it in the past.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see here. Make sure he's got Felder's number.
Hi, this is Chastity from the Gutterman. Have the fall leaves clog your gutters? The pros at the Gutterman can keep the clutter out of your gutter and your downspouts. Look for our guys in the powder blue trucks. Call me at 803-791-7147 or visit us online at thegutterman.com.
Keep the clutter out of your gutter. Call on the Gutterman.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Messaging data rates may apply. Please stop to opt out.
Hey, what's wrong? I thought you already left for work. The garage door is broken. It won't open and I can't get my car out. I can't miss this meeting today. Everyone is coming in for it.
Relax. I'm texting OGD right now.
What is OGD?
OGD, Overhead Garage Door. They're the garage experts in Columbia. I'll take my car in the driveway and OGD will handle the garage. They have same-day service and they'll get the garage door fixed today, fast and easy.
Wait, with just one text you can get our garage door fixed same day by OGD?
Yes, OGD will get it done, no problem. Now you need to get to work and let OGD worry about the garage door.
Alrighty. Broken, stuck, slow, or squeaky, text OGD, the only name you need for your garage.
I will bring up the Debo to the Panthers thing here because he he is probably the Gamecock closest to winning a Super Bowl, and if he goes to the Panthers, he will be amongst the furthest away.
Kind of feels that way.
Lauren and I have this joke that so I think with number 8, I think the Panthers should prioritize either Malachi Starks or Will Johnson. I think there's a huge drop off in this draft after the top defensive backs, right?
Okay.
And the joke is you can probably get Kyle Kennard in the second round, which is what they are going to do anyway because David Tepper has such a boner for Gamecock players.
Okay. I never thought about it that way.
I mean, think about it. There were 4 on the roster this year. Wanham, Clowney, Leggett, and J.C. Horn.
Yep.
And that is there was one they let go before the season. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, it was basically like they let this guy go and replace him with 3 others.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
There's a little bit of pack the roster with guys the locals want to come see to Dave Tepper. Drives me insane.
Yeah. All right. I'm making sure. Yeah, Nick Muse is on the practice squad for Philly. He's the only Gamecock here. Ian Book is their practice squad quarterback. Wow. Good.
Wow.
Good for him, I guess. Remember when people thought he was going to be something?
Gosh, he must have been on the practice squad now for like 3 years. It's been a while since he was Notre Dame's quarterback.
Let's see. He got drafted by the Saints, 21.
Right.
Was with the Eagles in 22, practice squad with the Patriots, Chiefs, and Eagles the past 3 years.
Oh, okay.
He was actually on the Chiefs and the Eagles both this season, both the practice squad.
So he couldn't lose.
So he couldn't lose.
USC students are Eagles fans.
What?
USC students are Eagles fans, or at least they were last night.
Okay. Because of Muse?
I don't know.
No. Like, I don't know what other connections there are.
Drunken, disorderly conduct.
Maybe. Two o'clock. Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler and Dimitri along with you here on your Monday. It is time for what is trending at 2. Of course, Super Bowl 59 last night. The Eagles take down the Chiefs 40-22 to pick up the second Super Bowl victory in the organization's history. The most recent one coming against the Patriots back in early 2018. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier on the show. Not necessarily a local connection to this. Dave tells me there are a lot of students here that are Eagles fans. For what reason, I don't know exactly. Maybe it's Chiefs fatigue. Nick Muse, former Gamecock, is on the Philly practice squad, but that's kind of the only connection you really have to that team.
Yeah, I mean, I looked this up before the game yesterday because I was curious. On the official roster, there were no Gamecocks on either the Philadelphia or Kansas City side, and it got me thinking about gosh, is Deebo Samuel the former Gamecock that has been closest in recent years to winning a Super Bowl?
I mean, last year Clowney was on the Ravens, so he had a shot at it. Did not get there, obviously. Yeah, in terms of as far as like playing a role, yes. Because again, there's probably somebody buried on the depth chart somewhere that I'm not thinking about that maybe he's gotten closer or been on a team the past couple of years. But yeah, it seems like Deebo Samuel's been the closest as far as obvious answers.
So I guess, going forward, depending on the role he plays with the team, because he only, I believe, had 8 catches all year. I guess if the Chargers are trending upward, Hayden Hurst could be that guy, because Deebo Samuel has, first of all, the 49ers took a huge fall back to earth this year, but Deebo Samuel has been authorized to go out and find a trade for himself to get out of town. And among the top 3 teams most likely to land him, according to sportsbetting.ag, the Carolina Panthers at plus 500 yards. And Tyler, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan.
Yes.
I say this even though I do not want it to be true. Going to the Panthers could make Deebo Samuel as far away from winning a Super Bowl as he has ever been in his life, even before he got into the NFL.
Yeah, and it begs the question of, okay, is he chasing money or does he want to go play for another contender? Because again, the 49ers have gotten there multiple times and he's been a part of those runs. They just not been able to seal the deal and get it done at the end of the day, and came close last year, obviously. And you would think a guy like that is wanting to go to another capable, if not more capable team that's going to put him in that same position again so he can go and be successful. But, some guys, and not that he's an old guy, but, he's been around the league for a little bit now. Some guys do chase the bag, and sometimes that'll take you to a place that doesn't necessarily net you the best results in terms of making deep runs in the postseason, but your payday will be good. So there's that.
Yeah. And I mean, look, and to be fair to him, the 2 teams listed with better odds than the Carolina Panthers are the Washington Commanders, who were in the NFC Championship game this year, and the aforementioned Los Angeles Chargers, who were a playoff team this year. So it is not like the assumption is he is going chasing a bag or he just wants to be back home, whatever it is you want to say. At 29 years old, I think he does have a lot to offer a team. As much as I enjoyed watching Deebo play here in Columbia, the Panthers do need to make a splash in terms of a big-time ex wide receiver, the guy that is the get out of jail free card to Bryce Young whenever he needs one. I think Deebo Samuel could fill a lot of roles for the Panthers. That is not the one, as a fan, I want them to see put on Deebo Samuel. I would rather them make an effort to either sign T. Higgins, make a trade for a Garrett Wilson or a Cooper Kupp. I just don't think Deebo Samuel is the kind of superstar that they are lacking in the passing game right now.
And what's their cap situation? What can they afford in the offseason?
So unless they get really aggressive with the cuts and the restructuring, they're going to have about $20 million to work with outside of what is set aside to sign their rookies. And that falls almost immediately in the middle of the NFL. So you could probably add one big-time free agent, but you can't fix everything, obviously.
Yeah, because I'm looking here what Deebo's last deal was. 3 years, $71.5 million. That was back in August.
Yeah.
So and he's in a rare category of being able to pursue this trade on his own. Like you said, where again, the team's like, hey, go out there and see what you can find, because that's the way that his contract is structured. So whoever picks him up is going to have to basically take on whatever's left of that contract. And again, I guess it's case by case depending on what teams can afford.
Well, and the other thing too is, go out there and find your trade does not mean if you find where you want to be that the 49ers are obligated to pull that trigger, right? Like every team, the Panthers, the Commanders, whoever it is that looks at Deebo Samuel as a potential missing piece is going to have to do some math on what it is they are willing to give up. And I don't know, for as good as the 49ers have been, I don't know that we look at John Lynch with a lot of scrutiny when it comes to managing the roster, because think about how long they sort of dangled Brandon Ayuk out there as a potential trade target, only to tell everybody that came sniffing around that's not enough compensation. I'm a little skeptical that Deebo will actually be on the move.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It also, to me, kind of begs the question, because the 49ers obviously took a big step back this past year, dealt with injuries and stuff like that.
Of course.
But doesn't it feel like maybe their windows, and I looked this morning, they have like the third best odds to win next year's Super Bowl, but it's like, is that window still open the same that it was the past couple of years?
So it is, but not for the same reason. I think it is still open because the Rams window seems to be closing, and Seattle and Arizona don't seem to be making a whole lot of progress. Now, it may not be, what's the right way to say it? It is probably open, but it is not open for as long as the 49ers would like for it to be. Next year, you might be right. Next year might be the can you do it, or are we just going to say, gosh, what could have been with those 49ers teams?
Yeah, I do think, man, if he somehow did manage to get out to a place like Washington and play for the Commanders, he doesn't he kind of seem like the perfect guy for a Cliff Kingsbury offense?
Absolutely.
He would just be drooling over to be able to use in a variety of ways.
Absolutely. And honestly, that is why, I could see the value to the Panthers, because until Jonathan Brooks is healthy to go again, you can also use Deebo to do some of the check downs, some of the screen patterns that you were going to be relying on Brooks to bring to the backfield. I just think that the asking price is going to be too high when you have as many problems to fix as the Carolina Panthers do. I mean, let's say the 49ers want at least a second rounder for Deebo Samuel. I don't think the Panthers can afford to give that up in this draft.
Yeah, but you did bring up a good point that David Tepper does maybe have an affinity for former Gamecocks, because he does understand the local connection and trying to get butts in seats with drafting Leggett, bringing in Horneth, bringing in Jadeveon Clowney. So this will kind of fall in line with that if they were able to land him.
Yeah, don't forget DJ Wanham. If they got Deebo Samuel, that would be 5 on the roster. Now, that's assuming that none of those guys get cut. I think Wanham and Clowney are prime candidates for cuts, and maybe that doesn't necessarily mean the Panthers don't go out and try and re-sign them at a lower rate, but you can't restructure. You don't have them after this year. It seems to me like DJ Wanham and Jadeveon Clowney are good places to start to create more cap space for this team as we head into the offseason. So we will see just how prevalent the Carolina influence is on the Panthers as we get ready to start the 2025 offseason. I've seen all those videos coming out of Philadelphia. And remember, it wasn't that long ago that the Eagles won their first Super Bowl. And this was a team, when you looked at the powerhouses, or I guess I should say, every other team in the NFC East had a period of time when they were clearly the best team in the NFL. They were champions. I mean, you know about the Cowboys in the 90s. You know about Washington under Joe Gibbs in the 80s. I guess the early 90s, too, because they did get that other Super Bowl against Buffalo. The Giants have popped up and gone away so many times. And the Eagles had never gotten to the promised land until a few years ago. And now they have two in the span of about, I believe, 7 or 8 years. I can't remember which it is.
Yep.
7 years?
Yep.
The videos from last night still look like the very first time this city has ever won anything.
Yeah. Maybe there's a strong contingent of people that are celebrating theirs for the first time, perhaps. But I think it just kind of falls in line with what we expect out of Philly. They party hard on things and taking advantage, whether it be the Flyers, 76ers, or in this case, the Phillies, or in this case, the Eagles. I think they all would celebrate any championship pretty hard, but especially the Eagles, because again, that's going to lead the way for every major city pretty much.
I think Dave said that there are a lot of Eagles fans on campus at USC, and I think it is because a lot of people have been coming from all over the Northeast down to South Carolina in general, but it's actually true across all SEC campuses now. A lot of people, a lot of students are coming from out of state. So maybe there are people listening that will hear what I am saying when I say this. Boston is an awful town full of awful people. Like the town just sucks. I can't stand it. And the people there are all jerks. Chicago is a great town with fine people. I've never had any sort of memorable interaction with a local whenever I've been in Chicago. Philadelphia is the best city with the worst people. So it absolutely tracks what we are seeing, people ripping light posts out of the ground to celebrate this Super Bowl.
What is the best element of it to you?
It's a great food city, first of all.
Okay.
Secondly, it is, I don't know how to say it anyway other than this. It is like a more compact, cleaner New York.
All right.
All of the trappings of a big city without just the constant urine smell everywhere that you have in New York, or tip of the hat to the city that hosted the Super Bowl last night, New Orleans.
Yeah, I could see that. I've still got to make my way to these cities, but I feel like from what I've heard from a lot of people, that kind of tracks.
I mean, look, this is a city where throwing batteries is a very normal practice, regardless of what the Eagles are doing or who they are playing. Like, a celebration for those people was always going to get out of control. I don't think there is a city that celebrates victory as hard as Philadelphia, because remember in 2009 when the Phillies won the World Series, or excuse me, 2008 when the Phillies won the World Series. Remember, I believe earlier that year, Tyler, the Phillies had set the record for the most losses of any franchise in Major League Baseball history.
Yeah, I think that's right. So definitely a worst to first kind of turnaround there, which adds to the feeling of finally winning it all.
Yeah, I mean, for as long as Philadelphia has had these teams in the four major American sports, Philly has a long history of losing. So this championship sort of society that they are enjoying right now. And the other part is, even while they're enjoying these championships, they are still tethered to earth by the 76ers, who will get all the way to the end and not complete the job.
Well, that's the thing, is you never know when your last one's going to be. So may as well enjoy it as much as you can, I suppose.
The Eagles absolutely dominated that game last night. And our next guest says it should have been a lot uglier than it was. Michael Felder joins us next. That is Tyler Head. I'm Dimitri Ravanos. This is 107.5 The Game and the Game Sports Network.
Do you still have Felder's number, Dave? Yeah, we talked to him a couple weeks ago.
Everybody loves streaming until you have to pay for it. Just download the 107.5 The Game app and stream up to
All right, cool.
107.5 The Game, broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. Chevrolet makes you smile. Together, let's drive.
We talk a ton about the Nest because if you're looking to, redo the appliances in your kitchen, maybe you like to put a new tub in the bathroom, maybe you want some new plumbing. How about a lighting? Change the lighting in your house. Maybe you want to do something about the fixtures, like the look of the faucets and things of that nature. Well, there's no other place to go with the Nest. If you want to shop around, you have to make the Nest the part of your shopping around experience. Look, 803-978-2025 is the phone number. The best way to do this is to call. Say, look, hi, I am interested in some new plumbing. Okay, now we'll put you in touch with a plumbing expert. Hold on, boom, you go to the plumbing expert. You tell the plumbing expert what you want to look for, what your ideas are, ask them what they think, and you tell them your budget. The Nest will put it together for you, set you up, show you what you need, and make everything happen for you. 803-978-2025. The Nest on Gadsden and the Vista. Make the call.
What you're talking about. Sponsored by Love Chevrolet. Check out the Season of Love at South Carolina's #1 volume Chevy dealer. I-26 in Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, your favorite drafts are poured at a frosty 29 degrees, and rare barrel-aged whiskeys are served just the way you want. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch every day from lunch to late night? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Twin Peaks Scratch Kitchen scores every time. Dig into hand-smashed burgers, chef-inspired flatbreads, and more at your local lodge.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. The price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, HIMS can help. Through HIMS.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100%
apparently
online process.
Ernest Jones was with the Rams when they beat the Bengals a couple years ago.
So
the
last game
Yeah,
to win a Super Bowl.
I believe so.
Medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but HIMS can help. To start your free online.
Someone has described the halftime show as that graphic that was going around that said elephant kills woman and returns to funeral to attack her corpse.
I saw that. Yeah, apparently I think Drake was in like Australia or something for a tour. I was
saw
like,
this.
how do you even return to the States at that point?
Right.
I mean, he shamed you in front of everybody. After
thought,
already beating you last year.
with the promise of something big, I thought I'm going to be so pissed if this is a work and Drake is somehow part of this.
That's what I kind of wondered too in the back of my mind is like, is he going to come out and be like, oh, because look, entertainers beef with each other to sell more merch and more, records and stuff like that. So it wouldn't have been like the most shocking thing in the world if they concocted this for that reason. But nah, that was real.
Yeah.
Teamwork, loyalty, all of those things we put into practice every day.
Remember, if you've been hurt on the job, who you hire matters. Call us at 803-251-6406.
And, he was probably wearing a Chiefs pullover down in Australia, which is why they lost.
Well, I'm sure he was wearing a Chiefs pullover over a Eagles pullover just in case, because God forbid he's on the losing side.
We always got to stay ready. Is Michael good? Cool. And welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Dimitri Ravanos along with you here on your Monday. Appreciate everybody checking us out on the Game TV, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass, powered by our friends over at Integrated Media. Also, those checking us out on the 107.5 The Game app, on iTunes and the Google Play Store. Give it a download and take us with you wherever you go. Recapping all things Super Bowl 59, we head back out to the Love Chevrolet phone lines. Welcome back, our guy, Michael Felder. Michael, first of all, appreciate your time this afternoon, And judging by your tweets, you seem to be very disappointed the Eagles did not put a 50 burger on the Chiefs last night.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that when you can?
I mean, it's a very good question, and clearly they could have. I have never seen as good of a quarterback look as defeated as early in a game as Patrick Mahomes did, coming like maybe 5 minutes left to go in the second quarter.
Yeah, they were done. They were like, oh, our goose is cooked. Like, we're done. Like they know what we're doing and they understand everything. And so and it'll be up on the Substack later today. But the big thing for me is watching like the life bleed out of that, and watching my kid, she's 6. I got a 6-year-old. Watching my 6-year-old be like, do you think they can still win? Because her friend, she has a bunch of friends that are Chiefs fans. And I was like, no, they can't win. And I was like, no. The only way they can win is if they let them win. But there's no way they can win. And the life drain out of it looked like, like we've all seen The Mummy, right? With what was that? Brendan Fraser?
Yeah.
Like when the mummy sucks all the life out of the person, it's like it's gone. Sorry. This is not going to work the way it used to work. No, sorry. We know what we're doing, and so it was just. I thought it was a great game plan from Sirianni and the rest of his staff. I thought they did a great job, and those guys were focused. And shout out to Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and all those guys up front, because they really made life a nightmare for Patrick Mahomes. And I will say this also, tip of the cap to the refs for not making this. It was without question just a good football game.
Well, leading into this game, I think all looked on paper and said, man, this is a really good Eagles team, one that is certainly capable of beating the Chiefs. But I think we all fell into the default of, well, the Chiefs have done this a million times before, including 12 times this season, winning these one-score games. They're probably going to figure out a way. Were we just disrespecting the Eagles too much leading into this thing? Did that add anything to the onslaught we saw last night?
Yes, I think we did. I don't know if disrespect's the right word. I think a lot of us, and myself included, bought into this idea, this narrative that the Chiefs are going to get the calls.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs are going to get, the Chiefs are going to get, like, it'll work out for them. And then when we started seeing things work, the offensive pass interference, and when you start to see all these things work into play, and you start to see like the hold, and they called it an actual hold against the Chiefs, like we're not used to seeing. It was like, oh no. Oh, this is just a real football game. And the Eagles, realistically, and obviously folks are going to equate it immediately to, and I know, Dimitri, I know you do what is it?
The college football bubble bath?
Bubble bath?
Yep.
The bubble bath? Yeah. Listen, this is a bubble bath game, dude. Because what we saw is a team that has bigger, stronger, faster players, right?
Yep.
And they just bullied them and pushed them around. And I'll be honest, I know folks are going to hate this. Sorry, Swifties, but his haircut's not fresh. He doesn't have the swag he used to have, and he was completely ineffective.
I made the joke that the pictures of him walking into the Superdome yesterday, he looked like an undercover cop that has no friends that are not also undercover cops.
Yeah, absolutely. So the joke that's a very good joke, actually. That's a very good joke. The joke that I made was like, this man went from going to the barbershop to Supercuts, and it's not the same.
Yeah, I think that is
halftime show. To go to the halftime show, you are not like. You
and I were texting this morning, Felder, and you said that you had no problem admitting that before last night you were not a believer in Jalen Hurts, and now you get it. I wonder if you would say the same thing. And I'm asking honestly because I don't know how you felt about Nick Sirianni before this game, but I know how America did. Do you feel like he changed some minds last night?
I hope he did. So let's go backwards to go forward. So you mentioned Jalen Hurts. I saw Jalen Hurts throw a ball straight into the ground in New Orleans at the opening when he was 16, 17. And I was like, this guy's not going to be good. And then I watched his, the pass charts that the passes they let him throw at Alabama. And I was like, he's not going to be good.
Yeah.
And then I watched at Oklahoma where you scheme him up, but most of his passes were still either wide open down the field or very, short yardage passes, intermediate to short yardage. And I was like, he's not going to be good. And then last night when the spotlight was on him and he showed up, and it was amazing. And so, and I do hope people realize this. Dimitri, I hope people realize I don't root against kids. I just see what I see. And if I don't see it, like my family's from Missouri, like show me.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed me, and I'm not going back. Like once I decided, I'm not going back. So there's that. And then I think that he just really proved that he could build a game plan. He understands. He takes advice from his staff, which I think we don't give him enough credit to. And and I'm sure a lot of folks don't. Like I had a long conversation with my wife and my daughter last night about like my kid goes, what do they have? Like 4 plays that go into the game? And I was like, well, that's not how football really works. And my wife was like, how many plays do you think they have? I was like, I don't know, 200, somewhere between 200 400, depending on the entire team. I was like, but it's like, you have 100 plays, but you have, you go into the game with this many plays, but you do them out of different formations. So if you have 4 different formations with 100 plays, 400 plays, you got to figure out where you're supposed to be at that time. So Sirianni and his staff put that together, and those guys were confident. And again, to go back to Jalen Hurts, he really, like watching him control the offense and telling guys, hey, I need you to move a little bit over, because that's what I'm looking for when I watch football. I want him to just move Goddard a little bit over, and now he knows what's happening. And same thing, flip it over, Cooper DeJean, right? Cooper DeJean, the best play was not the pick six. The best play that Cooper DeJean had was him telling the other, he's a rookie, him telling the other guy, hey, let's flip. Let's flip. I'll cover the slot. You cover the tight end, and they end up with an incompletion. It's second quarter. I think it's 12:52. Somebody can double check me on that, but I think it's second quarter, 12:52. Cooper DeJean runs across the field, and he's like, no, you go here. Switches with the linebacker, and he's like, I'll cover this guy, you cover that guy, and they end up with an incompletion. And it just, like, that's the part of football I love, but also that's the part that Sirianni empowering a rookie to do that, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. You can read his stuff on Substack. The name of his newsletter is It's Felder. You can listen to him on the Hand in the Dirt podcast. He will make you smarter. He is Michael Felder. Mike, always good talking to you, buddy. Thanks for making some time for us today.
Oh, it's fantastic, man. You guys take it easy.
Thanks, Mike.
He's dead on, man. Like, this is the thing I like about Felder. He makes you a lot smarter about football. Like, I did not pick up on how in control and how understanding of the assignments everybody on that Eagles defense was. I would never have thought to look for Cooper DeJean flipping up the coverage like that.
Yeah, look, it's been the best defense in the NFL for the entire season, and put that efficiency on display last night. And it does kind of make you wonder as we go forward, because again, everything with the NFL has been offense for the last handful of years. How many teams kind of look at the mold of what Philadelphia's done? Dominant defense, dominant run game, a perfectly solid quarterback. They can get ball out to playmakers, kind of in the same light that what the 49ers have done the past couple of years with Brock Purdy. Like, is that really what the championship mold is? Like, do we see more kind of a lean towards that, kind of towards the middle, as opposed to, hey, let's go out there and have an offense that scores 40, and as long as the defense can hold them under 38, we'll be fine? And
dominant run game is right, because Saquon Barkley had trouble getting going, and Jalen Hurts was the run game last night. There were times earlier this year that Saquon Barkley wasn't the dude. Kenneth Gainwell was. And so when you have that kind of run game and you can train the defense to look for one thing, you don't need an all-world quarterback. You need a guy that can hit the 1 or 2 big throws you ask him to. Patrick Mahomes is the biggest star in football, and that makes him a lot less interesting. I want to talk about the way he reacted after the game last night to another reaction that's a little bit more iconic. We'll get into that coming up next. That's Tyler. I'm Dimitri. This is 107.5 The Game. Yeah, Felder is hard to read because he's long-winded and he just stops talking.
Yeah, that when we had him on the other week, I was waiting to be the next one to ask him a question, and he stopped, and I was like, oh, he's done, because the cadence just kind of flows. So yeah, you gotta stay on top of it. I see, because I always like to, when we have guests on, I always like to give them like a time check, like, hey, about 2 more minutes here, last question. And some of them are really good, but some of them, like, they just keep going, and then you're having to go, okay, hey, all right, thanks, all right, I gotta go.
I was doing an audition for a radio station one time, and it was me and the regular host, and they had Sean McDonough on. And this was back when McDonough was the play-by-play guy for college football.
Yep.
And after the audition, the program director was like, yeah, you just don't know how to give guest space. And it was because McDonough is exactly like that. Like, you think he's done talking, and then suddenly he's not done talking. Or you ask him a question about so what do you like about these running backs? And 8 minutes later, well, thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Talk to you next time.
Yeah, he likes to he likes to give novels. That's what I've noticed in his broadcasting itself, is he likes to tell stories.
Have y'all ever had Brett McMurphy on?
I'm trying to think. I believe so. Yes. Yeah, we have.
McMurphy is either going to give you novels or he's going to give you tweets. There is no in between with that man.
Yeah, I think they usually catch him at media days. I don't think we've ever had him on the phone before, but at media days, I feel like he was pretty quick, just because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very knowledgeable, very insightful.
If you would like, I will shoot you his phone number, and you can have him on any old time.
Yeah, that'd be great.
He's very agreeable and always up for this sort of thing.
I'm down for as many guests as possible.
Yeah. Today, did I say this already? Like, I was trying to find bigger name guests, but everybody is on a plane today.
Yeah, it's okay. I
talked to the Golics yesterday. I talked to Mina yesterday, and it was either I am on a plane away from the Super Bowl, or I'm on a plane away from where I am and on vacation, because football season is over now.
Well, we got to get Golic Jr. on to discuss how we're going to punish Orlovsky for eating this candy the way that he has been. That's just awful.
You might have to get Golic Jr. on just because he's out of a job now, I believe.
Oh, what happened?
Just DraftKings dropped all their original podcasts.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think yesterday or last week was their last hurrah for all of that stuff.
Well, okay then. I mean, you've got a name that'll help you out.
Right. And he's good on play-by-play. I mean, somebody will keep him around.
He's not afraid to be himself. I like the goofiness.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I don't know the people over there well, but honestly, if he were hurting for money, I'm sure the Mayo Bowl people would hire him tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Perfect spokesperson. He'd put mail on anything. I've actually, some of his snack, he does the little snack videos on Twitter. I've actually gone out and bought some of the things that he's recommending, because I'm like, well, if he likes it, it's probably good.
I was about to say, if anyone would know, right?
Right.
All right. So are these two clips cool?
Yeah, they're in there. I just, I guess, because I was trying to do this in the middle of breaks earlier, I guess I didn't see that extra one, and I just had the other ones instead. So
yeah, no worries, man. I mean, hey, it happens to the best of us.
I may, since I have the clips now, I may use that tomorrow or something like that just to pay it off.
It's a good conversation. So if you are doing Super Bowls and big games by yourself, are you and or your wife putting together a feast at all for these games?
We just did like pizza and wings last night. We went to the store on like Saturday. Nothing too elaborate. Even when I'd like host Super Bowl parties, that was pretty much it. I'm not shelling out anything crazy for people.
Yeah.
So wings, pizza, and Tostitos.
Nice. I made chili and then went out and bought exactly what you're talking about, the buffalo wing dip and stuff like that.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Dimitri along with you here on your Monday, recapping all things Super Bowl as we move along in the 2:30 segment here. Patrick Mahomes, of course, coming out on the losing end of things from Super Bowl last night, is he's now 3-2 overall in Super Bowls, third trip to the Super Bowl in his career, fifth trip to the Super Bowl in his career, all before he turns to the age of 30. I'm certain he's going to get back to many more, but there's no sugarcoating it. Losing sucks.
Losing sucks. He is now, like you said, before the age of 30, been to 5. I believe the odds open this morning, and he is the favorite to get to his 6th next year. That the Ravens and the Chiefs are your co-favorites to win next year's Super Bowl. It would be Super Bowl 60. If you were Patrick Mahomes, despite the fact that you can go home to 3 beautiful Super Bowl rings and you have those memories to fall back on, you would be pissed, right, Tyler? I mean, you would be really disappointed that your offensive line couldn't hold up. You would be disappointed in yourself for making bad throws and misreading some coverage. You would be angry after that game, I would think.
I think so, because it wasn't necessarily anything that Mahomes did. And yes, he made some bad throws, made some poor decisions. But again, when you've got your left tackle getting pushed into you every other play, seemingly, you don't have a lot of time to sit back there and dissect what's happening down the field. And look, he tried to scramble, tried to make some things happen with his feet. It just wasn't happening. You ran into, again, a buzzsaw of a defense that exploited your weaknesses, and it left you pretty much ineffective for the most part. And, I would imagine he didn't sleep too well last night.
Well, I want to play for you a clip of Patrick Mahomes' post-game press conference. Dave, this is the clip titled Patrick. I don't think Patrick Mahomes knows he's allowed to be mad. Listen to this.
I would imagine some of that comes from the, hey, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus kind of thing here, where, hey, my offensive line wasn't good, didn't protect me, or hey, we didn't all do our jobs kind of thing. I think he's, I don't know if afraid is the right word, but does not like to push that limit.
But there's a middle ground, right? Because clearly he was mad during the game. Even if he was just mad at himself, he was clearly frustrated during the game. You could see it on his face. This is a dude, he is in every commercial you see every Sunday, and it seems like he is that dude even when he is not being filmed talking to Jake from State Farm. There is just zero interesting personality there, and that's a bummer because the way he plays the position is beyond interesting. You should want to hear more from that guy and his thought process in moments like this.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of being so corporatized that you don't want to step on toes and you don't want to come across as a bad guy type of thing. Like, if you could take Patrick Mahomes' skill level with like Gardner Minshew's personality, you'd have a dream come true with the NFL, because again, Gardner Minshew's bursting with personality, but he's not a good quarterback. And Patrick Mahomes is the complete opposite of that, amazing quarterback. And he's popular because he's such a good player. You know what I mean? There are other guys in the league that can be popular, not as maybe the best player, but because they have that personality that precedes them, obviously. And Mahomes is not quite that guy.
So this was Super Bowl 59. I want to rewind 9 years to Super Bowl 50, and I want to contrast Patrick Mahomes playing one of the worst games he has played in years and his reaction to it with Cam Newton, who not only basically got the Panthers to that Super Bowl single-handedly, but had an MVP season, a season, by the way, that if you do not remember, if you are a Panthers or Cam hater and don't want to acknowledge it, now with hindsight, you can look back and say that season was absolutely undeniable, right? Like, he was undeniably the best player in the league that season. They come up short in the Super Bowl. He got killed for the way he reacted, but it was so authentic. Let's listen to Cam Newton after Super Bowl 50.
And look, he kind of ran down the list there. Hey, we dropped balls, gave up sacks. Like he did not call anybody out individually. And if I remember, he had his like hood on and was kind of slumped over in the chair, like did not have the body language you would want for anybody leading an organization. But he was mad and upset that he lost the Super Bowl. And people obviously criticized, hey, why didn't you dive on the ball and all those kind of things. But he was upset that he lost the game. And you saw that in that post-game presser.
And if you recall, I cannot remember what the question is someone asks him. Rather than answer or rather than say next question, he got up and walked away. He got up and left the press conference early, and he got killed for it. But I would tell you 10 times out of 10, I'd rather hear from a Cam Newton than a Patrick Mahomes. I think this desire to always be marketable makes sports less interesting. And frankly, I've been trying to figure out, you and I talked about this on Wednesday, where is it that so much of the Chiefs hate comes from? And I told you that, like, I thought that it was all individualized, right? Maybe you hate Travis Kelce with Taylor Swift. Maybe you hate Harrison Butker's politics. Maybe you hate Patrick Mahomes. I think most of the hate comes from they are just such a corporate team that they are so friggin' boring. And that was on display during the post-game press conference.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the dynasties and villains of
say what you want about Belichick and Brady. They were they embraced being jerks.
They did, and there was the cheating and all that kind of stuff. And Nick Saban was this hard-nosed, aggressive coach that would chew out a 5-year-old if he had to. And that probably pushed him off to some people. But they were successful. But and the fact that they're always the Chiefs are always in your face, right? Because again, like you said, Mahomes is in every State Farm commercial. Now Andy Reid's out there too. Kelsey's getting endorsements left and right. Like they're always around. Now, of course, with the Taylor Swift aspect, you're seeing them on entertainment shows and things of that nature. And people that aren't necessarily football fans are fans of them because of that connection. So you can't really escape them, I guess, is the thing. And like you said, they're very buttoned up. Nothing that they're never out of place. There's no bad boy Miami Hurricanes element to them or anything like that. Like they're very cookie cutter, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, before we put a wrap on the show, we have to talk about the thing that most people are talking about today, because remember, when you have an event that more people watching are not sports fans than are, it's less sports and more pop culture. So let's dive into Kendrick. Let's dive into the commercials. Let's dive into everything that was not the football game before we put a bow on it.
One thing really quickly before we hit that break. Do you have to hit the greatest day in the history of the world?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I thought that was next segment.
2019, on this day, the Alliance of American Football gets underway. The Orlando Apollos defeat the Atlanta Legends 40-6. I watched this game, by the way.
I did too.
Do you remember the coach of the Orlando Apollos?
I believe that is the one coach ever to win a championship in the AAF, a ring he paid for himself, Mr. Steve Spurrier.
That is correct. That season was not complete. The league went bankrupt like 3 weeks in, but the Orlando Apollos had the best record.
Here's my question for you. Do you remember the coach of the Atlanta Legends?
Ooh, I remember Murray was their quarterback. I don't remember the Legends head coach.
Don't worry, neither do I.
Okay, I'll look it up in the break, and we'll reset everything with the commercials and the halftime show to wrap up the halftime show here on your Monday on the game. Okay. I should have led the segment with that. I forgot.
No, it's okay. I remembered that it led the segment, so I thought it was next segment. My bad.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Just download the 1075 The Game app.
Kevin Coyle was the head coach of the Atlanta Legends.
I could have sat here for 10 hours and given you that answer.
I don't think he had any sort of significant position before that. He came from being a defensive analyst at LSU.
Okay.
God, imagine giving up being part, even as an analyst, imagine giving up a spot on the LSU coaching staff after the 2018 season.
Oh, man.
Be a head coach of the doomed AAF.
Yeah, I'm sure those checks started bouncing pretty quickly.
It is the guy that owns the Carolina Hurricanes here that bought the league.
No, oh yeah, I remember that's right because
Yeah.
he bought it, shut it down, and there was like the issue with nobody got paid for like the last
Right.
or the whole season or something like that.
So apparently part of what allowed him to buy it, is that the people before were the ones not paying anybody.
Okay.
And-
That's
Yeah, and so like all of their debt didn't. However the sale was structured, all the debt did not come with him. Like it is still Bill Polian and that group that owed everybody for their work.
well. Seems like the Rock's got things straight with the UFL because that's still going. So
Yeah, I mean, well, Disney's subsidizing it. That makes it a lot easier.
that is true.
Or not Disney, but Fox is subsidizing it.
I can't do spring football. I tried. I actually
Me
tried
neither,
for
man.
AAF, like, and maybe it's because they had a team in Atlanta. I was like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, I can't. I got to get away from it for a while.
It's interesting. Birmingham is never going to have an NFL team, but anytime one of these new spring football leagues start, they will always have a team and they will always get support. And I think that until the Stallions, whatever they were in the AAF, that was the one that the city was really excited about. Birmingham Iron.
Was Trent Richardson on that team?
He was briefly. They brought him and Blake Sims in the middle of the year.
Okay. Yeah, because I understand the trying to get local fans in by bringing back former college stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't.
And I believe he went after that. I believe he signed a deal to play football in Mexico for a while.
Yes, I do remember that now because I was like, I didn't know they had Mexican leagues.
Right.
It's a classic example of your physical abilities can only get you so far.
Well, and he and look, this does not explain the production, but he also was one of these guys that did not realize just because someone is your cousin does not mean you owe them money.
That's right. He also
Like-
went broke. I remember that.
Yeah, like his family bled him dry, man.
Yeah, well,
Or at
hey,
least that's the story that's told, is his family bled him dry.
I imagine you get a lot of cousins you didn't know anything about when you sign an NFL deal.
Yep.
Or, hey, your uncle's got a business idea he needs you to invest in.
Right.
Remember, he watched you when you were a kid.
Right.
Yeah. I need to go back and find that documentary they did on the athletes going broke all those years ago. That was really good.
Yeah.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler and Dimitri along with you for a few more minutes before we hand things over to Jay and Elijah for the post-game show as they'll share their thoughts on what happened in Super Bowl 59 and obviously get into what happened on the hardwood for the Gamecocks over the weekend as well. Quickly, Firehouse Subs text of the hour. Tim and Sumter says, what's wild is Barkley's been the workhorse for the Eagles this entire season. They won a lot of games being carried by that explosive run game. Casey did really well shutting down the lanes for the running backs last night, and Philly still dominated them. Genuinely, this was one of the best games Hurts has had since he joined the league. Yeah, he had a terrible interception, but overall, everyone played solid, especially the D-line. Yeah, I can't think of a better summary for what the Super Bowl last night was than that.
I believe through the first half, I believe Barkley was averaging like just over 2.1 yards per carry. It was not until the game was clearly out of hand that Kansas City let up on their focus on Barkley.
He busted off like an 8-9 yard run in the first half. I think I had like a 10-yard run in the third quarter, but that was really kind of the only notable runs he had the entire game.
I believe that one you're talking about in the first half, I believe that was a screen pass. So that doesn't even count as a run.
Maybe it was because, yeah, he got 40 yards on the ground. So, I mean, all purpose almost got 100. But, yeah, what we think of him in the traditional sense of running between the tackles, it wasn't quite there.
So let's move away from what happened on the field. Did any commercials catch your eye at all yesterday?
In a good way or a bad way?
Either one. I mean, I did not think any of them were particularly great, but I will be honest with you. I am because of my job, I so pay attention to how obsessed various businesses get with AI and eliminate positions. I thought we were going to see a ton of like soulless, no human work went into them commercials. So from that standpoint, I was pleasantly surprised. That does not mean I saw anything I really liked.
Speaking of AI, did you see the Jimmy Johnson thing before the game?
Oh my God. I'm glad someone else saw this. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I felt uncomfortable watching it. I was like, this is weird.
This is the thing about AI, right? And the Jimmy Johnson thing, if you did not see it, it was a very strange career retrospective on Jimmy Johnson that was basically AI versions of him at every stage of his life talking to the current version of him.
Yes.
I know that name your tech mogul of choice, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, whoever, right? They all tout what AI can do and how important it is going to be. AI looks like absolute crap. Every video and image generated by AI you see all looks cheap to the point that it is distracting. That is what every second of that Jimmy Johnson thing was. I kept looking at it like, you know, those Chick-fil-A commercials they show during college football that show you the Chick-fil-A streaming service and the cartoon?
Yeah.
They all look like that. They all look like they are made in some Eastern European factory somewhere.
What is the term? Is it the uncanny valley?
Yes.
Is that the right term?
That is right.
So where you're watching something kind of like Polar Express, right? Back in the day when they were doing the motion
That's
capture.
the one that
with Tom
everybody
Hanks,
points to. Yeah.
We're like, it's not close enough to look real, but it's not fake enough where you just kind of write it off. It's somewhere in between.
Yep.
That's what that felt like, because like you're looking at it and I'm like, well, I know that's supposed to be Jimmy Johnson, and it's not like a cartoon or it's not anything like that. It's very close to being real, but it's not. And that's what makes it unsettling.
And because AI is what it is, I should say, I assume this is what it is. It may have been a Fox issue. I don't know. The mouth and the voice were off just enough that it distracted me the whole time.
Yeah.
I want to know. I'm glad you bring it up because I was so worried nobody else saw this thing, how early it happened in the broadcast.
Because after the women's game went off, I just put it on Fox because, you know, they had a 5-hour pregame show. So I'm like, oh, whatever. Sean McVay was on the desk and all those kind of things. And at first I was like, wait, is Jimmy Johnson retiring? What are we doing here? Apparently he's not going anywhere.
So
but they love making him cry. That's kind of a common theme.
I have a theory that he was supposed to say he was retiring, and he just wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to give them the satisfaction.
Okay. Because I'm like, again, I don't know what the direct reference to this Super Bowl or the city of New Orleans
I did the same thing.
Had on, because like, okay, if you're playing at Jerry World or the Cowboys or anything, like, sure, go full in on Jimmy Johnson because it makes a lot of sense. But he had no connections to anything really going on with this game.
I did the same thing because it would have been last year that was the 30th anniversary of his second Super Bowl. So there was no significant anniversary either. I think he was supposed to announce his retirement. He just refused to do it in the moment. Halftime show. Give me a letter grade on it.
I gotta go A. I mean, again, for what it was and what kind of I thought it was going to be, it kind of checked all the boxes. Again, I knew it was not going to be your typical halftime show because Kendrick Lamar is not your typical halftime guest, but the choreography, the story that was being told, Samuel L. Jackson, Serena Williams, like if you understand what you're listening to, I think it checked all your boxes.
The Serena Williams thing, like I'm going to bring out one of the greatest female athletes of all time, and she's just going to crip walk. She's not going to be featured front and center. She's just going to crip walk. Like that is an absolute flex. I told you this earlier. Kendrick is like my son's dude, right?
Yeah.
So I know all of those songs from riding around with my son, and I like Kendrick Lamar too. I was incredibly impressed with his real-time censoring of himself.
Yeah. Well, and also, because again, I think, with the Super Bowl halftime show like that, you're going to upset a lot of people that don't get it. And the fact that, again, kind of Samuel L. Jackson is being the person that's being negative towards this whole thing in the middle. He's basically in your face about, hey, here's what you're saying about me while this is going on.
Like Uncle Sam, by the way.
Dressed as Uncle Sam, which I thought was just brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the performance of Humble started out inside of the American flag made out of human bodies was, I mean, visually it was stunning. It was great. I totally get if it wasn't your thing. I still believe that we are never going to top Prince in the rain in Miami for whatever Super Bowl that was where the Colts beat the Bears. But in terms of reflecting our moment, in terms of like reflecting what happened all year long leading up to it in pop culture, This was a feat.
It was probably the most recently relevant Super Bowl halftime show we've had. And okay, it was just won all the Grammys. Obviously, what everything that went down last year, the new album, like he is everywhere. Which again, if you're not a fan of his or don't know about him, you're probably confused for 15 minutes last night. But if you are a fan, you understand everything that's happening. That probably checked all your boxes.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought that it was thank God we got a great halftime show because we certainly did not have a great crop of commercials last night.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, the lasting memory of this game more than anything else is Kendrick performing at halftime and, Roger Goodell not deciding to turn the lights off after that.
Yeah, that'll do it. I mean, like as good as Kendrick was, I think Beyonce still had the more impactful performance when she blew the power grid in New Orleans.
Absolutely. Dimitri, appreciate you filling in for Terry, and I'll be chatting with you coming up on Wednesday.
Yep, you bet. Thanks, Tyler.
That is it for the halftime show. Coming up next, it is the post-game show with Jay and Elijah. They'll share their Super Bowl thoughts and so much more as your Monday rolls along here on The Game.